Welcome, everyone, to another one of our at-home table reads. Tonight we are tackling the first installment of the Hannibal Lecter series with Red Dragon. We're just going to jump right in and start having some fun. On action description tonight, we have Angi. Perfect. As well, Dr. Hannibal Lecter himself. We have George Graham. Hanging out right down there. I'm going to be reading for, Will Graham. That was an odd bit of a last name coincidence there. Curtis is going to be taking over the head of the FBI's Behavioral Science Division, Jack Crawford. We also have Shawn as Reba, along with a few other fun characters. We've got Andrew Sticklen as Dr. Chilton, Freddie Lounds, a few other fun characters hanging out down there. We've got Carina as Molly, and we've got Ann as Springfield, along with a few other agents of the FBI scattered throughout. Well, we're not going to waste any more time. Angi, take us away.
Red Dragon. Screenplay by Ted Talley, based on the novel by Thomas Harris. Fade in. Exterior Westminster Churchyard, Baltimore, night. A sculpted face, painted by time, stares at us from a white marble tomb. Across its base, the words Edgar Allan Poe. On this drizzly winter's night, the sad, knowing eyes seem to weep with the rain. Supertitle, Baltimore MD, 1983. Interior concert hall, night. On a brilliantly lit stage, the Baltimore Philharmonic is struggling through the third movement of Boccaneeri's Concerto in D major, Allegro Piacere. At center, a cello soloist. The conductor frowns. Something's amiss in the wind section. As the soloist nears the end of her passage, he jabs his baton with grim emphasis, indicating the wind's next entrance. 3 of the 4 flautists, instruments already poised by their lips, come in precisely on cue. But the 4th flautist is daydreaming, catching himself with a start. He lifts his flute, but now is hopelessly offbeat. As the others finish, then lower their instruments, he plays on alone for a few more notes before stopping, then glares around with defensive belligerence. 2 oboists nearby exchange a glance. One rolls his eyes. We back away, rising slowly, as if wafting with the music, passing over well-dressed concert-goers, elaborate woodwork, gilded cherubs, crystal chandeliers, till we finally reach a private box where a tuxedoed patron sits alone, his face in shadows. Now he leans forward into the light. Hannibal Lecter, MD, noted psychiatrist, arts patron, connoisseur, is trim, very neat, with a quality of coiled stillness. His eyes are blue, strangely pale. Closer on him, closer still, until in a startling flash we are actually inside Lecter's mind. The stage and its musicians are still here, as before, but now with all their colors, details, and textures enhanced, hyper-detailed. The effect is spooky, almost hallucinatory. Each note is heard separately and distinctly, as if slowed down, slightly echoey. At this extremely acute degree of sensitivity, when Lecter isolates on the 4th flautist, and then the hapless man comes in late, yet again, his off-the-beat playing is physically excruciating, like a nail scouring glass. Lecter's eyelids close, ever so briefly in distaste. When they reopen, the pale irises are as fixed as a cobra's.
Think to yourself that every day is your last. The hour to which you do not look forward will come as a welcome surprise.
Interior dining room, Lecter's townhouse, night. A candlelit table exquisitely set. Around this are seated the 10 very elegant members of the symphony board, male and female, happily eyeing their hors d'oeuvres. Dr. Lecter circles the table, pouring the wine for his guests.
As for me, when you want a good laugh, you will find me in a fine state, fat and sleek, a true hog of Epicurus' herd.
Laughter at this, plus some mock distressed oohs.
Poet Horace.
Well, I must say, Hannibal, speaking for the rest of the herd, I'm sorry for the symphony board, that these little soirees of yours are always the highlight of our year. Just so, hear, hear, bravo.
You're too kind, Reverend. More Montrachet?
Yes, please. It's drinking nicely.
I do feel guilty enjoying such a lovely evening while one of our musicians is still listed as a missing person.
Brave frowns at this, polite murmurs of concern.
Yes, poor was pal. Sad thing.
Shall I confess something wicked? I can't help feeling just the tiniest bit, well, relieved. I know that sounds awful. I know. But let's face it, so does the man's playing.
His family's given millions to the endowment. It would have been almost impossible to fire him.
Oh, he'll turn up somewhere. Count on it.
He's probably not missing at all. Just late again.
Chuckles, laughter, one or two happy groans.
Hannibal, confess. What is this divine-looking amuse-bouche?
If I tell you, I'm afraid you won't try it.
More chuckles, hearty laughter. Taking his seat at the head of the table, Lecter snaps loose his napkin. Looking around at his eager, expectant guests, he smiles.
Bon appetit.
Interior Lecter's basement, night. Lecter, now in a cashmere cardigan, moves through a walk-in commercial-style cold storage room. He's carrying something in an aluminum pan covered with a damp cheesecloth. Sound of a buzzer. He turns. A small speaker on the wall. It buzzes again. Lecter considers this. Then he turns, calmly sets his pan down on a wire storage rack. As he leaves, he brushes past a dangling pair of pink, naked legs. Interior, exterior, front door, night. The opening door reveals a man in a dark overcoat and a scarf, his breath streaming in the cold. Will Graham is pale, with dark, watchful eyes. He's exhausted and never got a chance to shave this morning.
Special Agent Graham, what an unexpected pleasure.
Sorry to bother you again, Doctor. I know it's late.
No bother, we're both night owls, I think. Come in, please.
As Graham enters, he passes a brass plaque that reads, Hannibal Lecter, MD, Psychiatric Consultations.
Look tired, Will.
Interior Lecter's study, night. A handsome paneled room decorated with primitive art, fragments of Greek sculpture, many books. To one side is a chaise lounge. A fire blazes, its light flickering over the two men's faces. Lecter is behind his desk.
You ought to get more sleep.
Graham paces restlessly. Under his navy jacket, we catch a glimpse of his shoulder holster and a Bulldog 44 special.
I'll sleep after this bastard's behind bars.
You're part of a 300-man task force. No one expects you to catch the Chesapeake Ripper all by yourself. Have a seat, Will.
Graham drops into a chair, leans forward urgently. Despite his weariness, his face is alive with fierce excitement.
We've been on the wrong track this whole time, Doctor. You and I. Our whole profile is wrong.
I don't understand.
We've been looking at decertified doctors, med school dropouts, laid off hospital or mortuary workers, anybody with a crazy grudge and some kind of anatomical knowledge.
From the precision of the cuts, yes, and his choice of souvenirs.
That's where we're wrong. He's not collecting body parts.
Then why keep them?
He's not. He's eating them.
Lecter looks at him. A pause. His voice remains soft.
That's most intriguing. May I ask how you came to this conclusion?
Well, we were at Molly's parents' for New Year's. We're all in the kitchen. Josh's grandfather was carving a roasted chicken, and he said to Josh, the tenderest part of the chicken is the oysters. I'd never heard that expression before.
Soft pads on the back, yes.
And I had a sudden flash of the third victim, Darcy Chambers. She was missing those same pads, and then it hit me. Liver, kidney, tongue, thymus, every single victim lost some body part that was used in cooking.
On Lecter's desk in his letter opener, an antique Venetian stiletto, slender blade, diamond in section with a blood groove. He toys with this idly.
That's a rather amazing leap, Will. Have you shared this with the Bureau?
I needed to see you first, but I know I'm right. I don't know how I know. I do. Somehow I'm starting to be able to think like this guy. It's like I'm climbing inside his skull.
How does that make you feel?
It scares the hell out of me.
Fascinating. And quite rare. I'd always suspected as much. You're a compulsive empath, Will. You see and share intensely the feelings of others, almost involuntarily. It's a species of intuition. How I'd love to get you on my couch.
There's just one more thing that troubles me, Doctor. I'm just a cop. You're the best forensic psychiatrist in the country, and yet somehow in all of our time together, this idea never occurred to you.
A quiet moment. The two of them are staring at each other.
I'm only human, Will. Perhaps I've made a mistake.
Graham is silent. Lecter's eyes gleam in the firelight.
If so, it pains me to think I might no longer enjoy your full confidence.
I didn't say that. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm very tired.
Look, why don't you come back in the morning? I'll clear some time on my schedule, and we'll get started on revising our profile. Sound good?
Graham hesitates, then nods wearily. Lecter smiles.
You rest here, then. I'll get your coat. Won't be a tick.
Lecter goes out. After a moment, Graham rises, stretches his back. As he waits, he turns, glancing idly around. Something on a shelf catches his eye. He moves closer. A Doggin tribal mask features contorted in rage or pain. Graham is a bit disturbed, not his idea of art. His gaze wanders. A block of shiny amber with a scorpion suspended inside, a squat Tolek figurine holding up a sacrificial blade, a beaded Sioux quiver with feathered arrows still protruding, and books. So many books. Some leather-bound with worn, cracked spines and very old, some much newer. Graham is interested, looks closer at the titles. Rex de Provence de France, de Loubker Couche, La Cuisine des Sacrifices in Pays Grec, La Russe Gastronomique. This last volume isn't pushed all the way back into place, and it has a red satin bookmark, noting a particular page. Graham pulls out Larousse, opens to the marked page. A recipe titled Fantiste des riz de vieux, beside which someone has written the word sweetbreads. Graham stares at this. Very close angle, sweetbreads. Just the single word inked in a fine, elegant hand. Graham's eyes widen in a horrified leap of understanding. At almost the same instant, he gasps softly, looks down. The Venetian stiletto is buried into its hilt, into his abdomen. Its handle is gripped by Lecter's right hand, while the doctor's left forearm now flashes across Graham's throat, choking off his wind, forcing his head back. Blood spurts onto the books. Graham drops the Larousse. Lecter's face looms over his shoulder as Graham struggles, crying out in his obscene embrace. But Lecter is immensely strong and has pinned him against the bookcase.
Such a clever boy, so curious. Perhaps I took our little game too far. Where were we? Ah, yes, anatomical knowledge.
Lecter jerks on the knife and Graham cries out. He's in shock and getting weaker by the moment.
That's your descending colon. Oh, smell that. I'm going to be days tidying up in here.
Graham's right hand has somehow managed to grasp his .44, but his fingers are slick with blood. The gun slides from his grip, falling to the floor. Lecter kicks it aside with one foot, then pushes against him even harder. Objects tumble from the shelves, shatter. Blood is everywhere. The doctor ignores the chaos.
You understand that a collector of my particular interests can't afford the attentions of a cleaning lady. Am I boring you, Will? You seem to be getting sleepy. Pay attention.
He jerks again. Graham cries out.
That's the mesentery, then the gallbladder. A little higher up is your spleen. Oh, so well. You didn't much need that anyway.
Graham's eyes roll up. He is very close to passing out.
Remarkable boy. I do admire your courage, Will.
His lips are close to Graham's ear, a loving whisper.
I think I'll eat your heart.
Graham's eyes glaze over. He goes limp. Lecter grips him in both arms for a few moments longer, making sure he's still, then eases his body to the floor, where it slumps like a rag doll's. Graham's eyes stare sightlessly, unblinking. Lecter kneels beside him. He leans over Graham, tilts his chin back, raising the stiletto to slash his throat, when suddenly the doctor himself emits a soft grunt. He looks down, surprised. Half a dozen Sioux arrows gripped in Graham's bloody fist have been punched into his abdomen. Graham's eyes refocus, staring directly into his. His face, sweat-drenched, contorted with pain, is very close to Lecter's.
Eat that.
Lecter rises, shocked, lurching backwards as he tries to pluck out the arrowheads, but they're deeply embedded, and his bloody stiletto interferes with his grip. Graham pulls a second gun, a small .38 revolver, from an ankle holster, aims unsteadily, squeezes the trigger. The boom of the explosions in the small room is deafening. New angle, slow motion. as most of the slugs miss, smashing into the walls, but at least one catches Lecter in the upper chest, spinning him around, hurling him away. The doctor topples over his desk, knocking the phone off before coming to a rest on the floor, on his side, unconscious. Graham, holding his spilling guts with one hand, keeps squeezing the trigger even after his gun is empty. Finally, his hand drops weakly, the gun clattering on the floor. He stares at Dr. Lecter's unmoving body. Blood pools rapidly around him. Graham, through his faintness, becomes aware of a strange new sound. Dully, he turns his head. Lecter's phone is lying on the floor, its receiver uncradled, humming a dial tone, just a few feet away, but it seems like a mile. Graham grits his teeth, then with a supreme effort managed to topple slowly over in the direction of the phone, his face coming heavily to rest on the floor about a foot from the receiver. Very weakly, he reaches out one bloody finger smearing the O button. After a pause, we hear a voice.
Operator.
17 Chandler Square. Officer down. Help me. Please. Help me.
His eyes roll up in his head. He faints. Fade 2. A montage of newspaper headlines and photos seen in grainy close-ups. Some soberly journalistic, others in screaming tabloid styles of the National Tattler. They are yellowed with age and have been carefully taped to the pages of a huge ledger. Worn black leather with brass corners. Spidery, obsessive handwriting surrounds the photos. From time to time, the images blur as the page is turned. Local doctor wounded, under arrest. FBI agent extremely critical. Details unclear and bizarre bloodbath. File photos of Lecter at a charity event, then Will Graham's bureau ID photo. Dr. Hannibal Lecter is Chesapeake Ripper. Chamber of Horrors revealed. Hannibal the cannibal. A photo of Jack Crawford, Will Graham's FBI mentor, briefing a swarm of reporters outside Lecter's townhouse. FBI agent conditions now guarded. Chance of recovery. Hero cop's ghastly wounds. Exclusive hospital pics. A photo of Graham, unconscious in his hospital bed, his body a mass of tubes and bandages with a temporary colostomy bag. The accompanying story has a byline by Freddie Lounds with a smaller photo of the reporter's grinning face. Trial of the century begins. Fiend served human organs to guests. Symphony chairwoman faints in court. Lecter's captor released from hospital. FBI agent will testify. Graham in a wheelchair, being pushed by his wife, Molly, as Crawford and other agents hold their hands up, trying to shield them from flashbulbs and shouted questions. Hannibal guilty. Lecter sentenced to 9 consecutive life terms. Cannibal to be caged forever. Photo of Lecter, heavily shackled and closely guarded, being frog-marched out of the courthouse. Top cop to loony bin. Stress cited. And then finally, in much smaller print, Hero Fed quits bureau. A powerful male hand comes into frame, turning all the way back to the first page of the Great Ledger. Across this, in hand-illuminated letters, it reads, Behold a great red dragon. Revelations 12:3. The thick fingers rest for a moment on the title page, lightly, lovingly. Fade 2, exterior Graham house and boatyard, Florida, day. A cluttered boatyard adjacent to a weathered gray beach house, work sheds, trailered boats. In the distance, palm trees, turquoise water. Super titles, Marathon, Florida, 3 years later. A 38-foot Morgan slope is propped up on blocks. Molly Graham, in spattered jeans and a painter's mask, is brushing varnish on its teak trim. She glances up as a white Ford rental car pulls into the yard, stops. Jack Crawford gets out, stands looking up at her. His gray DC suit looks hot here, out of place.
Hello, Molly.
She pulls her mask off, staring down at him, surprised to see him, then angry, and then scared.
He's not here. He's down on the beach with Josh.
When you talk to him.
It's about that new one, isn't it? We made a life here. He's getting better every day. He doesn't dream so much anymore. You're his friend, Jack. Why can't you leave him alone?
This is bad luck to be the best.
She stares back at him, her face taut. Exterior, beach, day. Will Graham and Crawford sit at a picnic table with glasses of iced tea. Beyond them, high dunes, dense with sea oats. In the distance, the Graham's house and boatyard. Graham is darkly tanned, thin but fit. He's wary of Crawford.
How much do you know?
Just what the Miami Herald and the Times said. 2 families killed in their houses a month apart. Birmingham and Atlanta, the circumstances were similar.
Not similar. Just saying.
What have you kept out of the papers?
He smashes mirrors and uses the pieces. He's blonde, right-handed, and really strong. Wears a size 11 shoe. Also licked his gloves. So we've got no prints.
You said that in public.
He's not too comfortable with locks. Pried upon a patio door in Birmingham. And used a glass cutter in Atlanta. Oh, his blood's AB positive.
Somebody hurt him?
No, he typed him from semen and saliva. He's a secretive.
Brief silence. Crawford reaches into his jacket.
He wanted to just look at it.
No pictures.
He's spoken more sharply than he intended. He looks away, down at the beach, a beat. In the distance, Josh Graham, 8, is casting a surf rod. Molly stands watching him, hand on her hip, with spent waves around her ankles. Finally, Graham trusts his voice again.
I don't think I'd be all that useful to you, Jack. I never think about it anymore.
Bullshit. You know what this was. Out of a second family, you had to know.
You got all the people you need. You've got Dorman up at Harvard, Bloom at the University of Chicago.
Yeah, and I got you down here fixing fucking boat motors.
Graham is silent, sips his tea.
Any technician can examine evidence, but you've got that other thing too. Imagination, projection, whatever. I know you don't like that part of it.
You wouldn't like it either if you had it.
Crawford dips into his jacket pocket with 2 fingers, flips 2 photographs across the table face down. Graham goes very still, staring at the blank white squares.
If you can't look anymore, God knows I understand that.
You get so you can function anyway. As long as they're dead. The survivors are the worst. Parents, kids, you have to shake it off and keep on thinking, I couldn't do that now.
You are all dead, Will.
He reaches out, turns the photos over, face up.
All dead.
Graham looks at him a moment before picking them up. 2 snapshots, a pretty woman, Mrs. Leeds, followed by 3 children and a duck, carrying picnic items up a pond bank. Another family, the Jacobys, stands happily behind a cake. Graham stares at the faces, a long beat. A shadow passes over his heart. He turns his head, looking down the beach again towards Molly and Josh, as she adjusts the boy's backswing. His son nods, then strides forward, frowning with concentration, and casts again. Crawford knows he's played Graham well, but he's careful to keep any satisfaction from his face and voice.
Will, this freak seems to be in the phase with the moon. He killed the Jacobys in Birmingham on Saturday night, June 28th, full moon. He killed the Leeds family in Atlanta night before last, July 26th. That's 1 day short of the lunar month. If we're lucky, we may have a little over 3 weeks before he does it again. Hell, I'm not the Pope. I can't tell you what to do, but Will, do you respect my judgment?
Yes.
I think we have a better chance to catch him fast if you help. Saddle up and help us, Will. Go to Atlanta and Birmingham and look. Just look. And help me brief the locals.
Graham doesn't reply. His eyes move back to the photos. Interior Graham house, bedroom, night. Graham sits on the side of his bed, staring out towards the moon, still almost full. Its cold light ladders the waves.
He's got a lot of other people. The whole damn government.
She comes and sits quietly beside him. After a moment, she takes his hand.
It doesn't have to be you this time.
This kind of psychopath's very rare. He knows I've had experience.
Yes, you have.
His denim shirt is unbuttoned. She sees the looping pink stiletto scars across his stomach. He follows her gaze. Then their eyes meet.
Someone will never see me or know my name, Molly. The police, they'll have to take him down if they can find him. Not me. Crawford just wants another point of view.
For a terrible instant, her face crumples. Graham hugs her. She hugs him back fiercely.
Molly, I'll be at the back of the pack. I promise.
Never in your life. I know you.
Interior Josh's bedroom, day. In early morning light, Graham stands looking at his sweetly sleeping son, reaches gently to smooth his hair. Before leaving the room, Graham sets something down on Josh's bedside table. A wooden box, its lid hinged open, resting inside a big surf lure, beautifully handmade by Graham himself, a carved silver bait fish with 3 treble hooks. Exterior Graham's yard, day. Graham embraces Molly, a last long farewell. Then he picks up his overnight bag, trudges across the sandy yard, past the big slope up its blocks towards a waiting taxi. Watching him drive away, Molly hugs her upper body as if a cold wind were suddenly rising. Exterior, suburban street, Atlanta, night. A 2-story brick home set back from the street on a wooded lot. The windows are dark. 1 yard light burns. Super title, Leeds House, Atlanta, Georgia. Exterior, back porch, night. Graham's flashlight beam shows a long porch, with lattice screening giving privacy to the back door. The beam picks out deck furniture, kids' bikes, and a coiled hose. It passes over, then returns to a wicker dog bed in a plastic bowl. Graham looks at these, and takes a microcassette recorder from his pocket, holds it up to his lips, flicks it on.
Jack, where's the dog? Nobody here barking, and there's nothing about it in the case file.
He turns, aims his flash at the back door, sees an Atlanta PD seal across it. Above this, the single glass pane is now missing, replaced by a plywood patch. Graham stares at this. Graham's imagination, killer's point of view. A plastic-gloved left hand holds a suction cup in place, while a gloved right hand circles it with a glass cutter, quietly removes a neat circle of glass. Then the right hand reaches stealthily down inside through the hole. Interior, kitchen, night. Night lights glow on the counter as Graham unlocks the door, comes in. The porch lattice behind him is a moonlit checkerboard. He removes the set of keys, softly shuts the door, stands very still, taking in the house, sensing madness like a bloodhound sniffs a shirt. He crosses to the stove, turns its vent hood light on. Cold neon bathes him. Then he sits at the center island where he puts down a 3-ring binder and house keys. The binder has a magic marker title, Leeds, followed by a case number. For a long moment, Graham is very still, gathering himself, becoming blank. Finally, he trusts himself to look around. Gleaming copper bowls, framed samplers, kids' art under fridge magnets, sports schedules, happy snaps of the 5 dead, father, mother, 2 sons, and the youngest, a daughter. All American smiles. Mrs. Leeds was very beautiful. There's a sudden loud click behind him. Graham starts the noise, turns quickly, eyes darting in fear. On the wall, a thermostat has kicked in. Air conditioners begin to hum, somewhere deep in the house. Slowly, Graham regains control of his breathing. His face is sweaty, damp moons under his arms. He looks reluctantly at the thick binder. Finally, he reaches out, opens it. Diagrams of the house's layout, 1 map for each floor. On the 2nd floor, each child's bedroom shows a red X. In the larger master bedroom, 2 red X's. Interior staircase, night. Slowly, quietly, Graham climbs the stairs. He glances down at his right hand and it slides up the railing. Graham's imagination, killer's point of view. The right hand is now plastic gloved and bigger than Graham's. Its shiny fingers tap playfully along the wood. Exterior upstairs hall, night. Graham stands in the dark hall outside the master bedroom. The door is ajar. He hesitates, then very softly pushes it open wider, steps into the opening, stares into the pitch black room, raises his flashlight, switches it on. Graham's imagination, killer's point of view. In a beam of flashlight, Mr. and Mrs. Leeds sleeping. Mr. Leeds turns over, disturbed by the glare, still drowsy, blinking uncertainly. Graham, in the present, hesitates again, very scared. A long beat. He has to steel himself to reach in beside the door, turn on the wall switch. Bloodstains shout at him from the walls. The mattress, the carpeted floor, splatters over the headboard. Taped outline of corpses on the soaked quilt. The very air has screams smeared on it. Graham flinches, gasping, jerks back into the hall, spinning away from the terrible sight. He sags to the floor, fumbles at his tape recorder, gripping it like a lifeline. It takes him 2 tries to switch it on.
The intruder cuts Charles Leeds' throat, then shoots Valerie Leeds as she's rising. She's disabled, but not killed outright. Then he goes down the hall towards the children's rooms.
Light from the open door shows great dark stains on the hall carpet. More splashes high up on the walls.
Arterial spray patterns show the Leeds followed him, trying to fight. He dies with his daughter in her room. Each boy is killed in his own room, 1 shot each.
Graham shines his flash, looking more closely at the carpet. Matted slide marks coming from each child's bedroom join in a wide common trail that leads past where he's sitting and goes into the master.
He drags the bodies into the master, keeps them in there a while before returning the children to their beds. The blood evidence becomes very confused, with some of it still unexplained.
He turns, looking again reluctantly into the carnage of the master. A curious pattern catches his eye. A row of 3 blood stains slanting up and around a corner of the bedroom wall. 3 faint stains on the carpet beneath. Graham is puzzled. Keys his mic.
Why? Why move them? They were already dead, and none of them got the same extra attention as Mrs. Leeds.
His eyes squeeze shut. His head sags onto his recorder. In flashback, Lecter's face grinning obscenely over his shoulder as Graham's own blood spurts onto the bookshelves. Interior master bedroom night. Graham swallows 3 Buffrin, scooping up water in his hand from the faucet in the sink, splashes more water on his face, some of it spilling on the floor. When he straightens, he's looking at himself in the shattered mirror in the medicine cabinet. Several shards are missing, traces of red fingerprint powder. He reaches into the sink for his little recorder. Gathers himself again.
Small pieces of mirror were inserted into the orbital sockets of the victims. Those wounds are post-mortem. However, serotonin and free histamine levels indicate Valerie Leeds lived as long as 10 minutes after she was shot. During this time, she used one of the bigger shards on her. I can't do this, Jack.
He lowers the recorder, stares for a few moments at his own distorted image, standing right where the killer stood.
Can't take this one.
Exterior Omni Hotel, Atlanta, night. A high-rise hotel downtown. Stars twinkle beyond the glass towers. Only a few windows are still lit. Interior hotel room, night. Graham hunches over a coffee table in his room, studying the case file. The binder is open, and the photos, lab reports, sketches, and charts have all been removed, spread out. He rubs his eyes, exhausted. Reaches for a miniature bourbon, empty. He rises, starting for the minibar, when the thought freezes him. He turns back, looks at the table, then kneels, searching quickly for a particular photo, finds the one he wants. That mysterious row of upright bloodstains on the master bedroom wall, small, medium, large. Graham stares at this for a moment, then quickly locates from a stack a second photo. The daughter's bedroom, her small form face down on her bed, mercifully obscured. Beyond that, a bureau. Atop the bureau, a row of dolls, in various sizes, sitting lined up in a neat row. Their glass irises seem to look at Graham. Graham starts to tremble, seeing in his mind's eye. Graham's imagination, killer's point of view. The 3 murdered Leeds children, lined up sitting against the wall in the master bedroom. Mirror shards make their eyes appear to gleam with life. Angle shifts quickly as we see much closer on the bed the same mirrored eyes in Charles Leeds, who's propped up, head canted, jaw slack. Next to him, below us, is Valerie Leeds, her dead face on the pillow. In her upturned mirrored eyes, just for an instant, we catch the reflection of a shadowy male face. Graham is stunned and exhilarated, both at once. He grabs his micro cassette recorder.
Jack, he wanted an audience. For him and Mrs. Leeds, the pastor wanted them all watching. The pieces of mirror made their eyes look alive. Why move again? Why not just leave them that way?
He rises, pacing, on fire. His recorder is forgotten.
Something you don't want me to know about, just something you're ashamed of, or something you can't afford for me to know. And Mrs. Leeds was beautiful, wasn't she? It was maddening to have to wear gloves when you touched her. Touch touch.
He stops, turns, stares down at the photos.
Talcum. There's talcum powder.
He drops to his knees, scrambling through the reports till he finds the one he needs.
Traces of talcum found on the right inner thigh, but none was found in the house. None was found in...
Graham stops, stares into some dark inner distance, seeing Graham's imagination, killer's point of view. The killer's left hand, still gloved, peeling the plastic glove off his right hand. The puff of powder drifts down onto the bare skin of Mrs. Leeds' leg. Graham is shocked, exultant, and furious.
You took your gloves off, didn't you? Didn't you, you son of a bitch? You touched her with your bare hands, and you put the gloves back on, and you wiped her down, but when your gloves were off, did you open your eyes?
In a rage, he sweeps his arm across the coffee table, knocking the photos and reports in every direction. Interior, different bedroom, Omnia Hotel, night. In a dark bedroom, a ringing phone awakens Crawford. He turns on his bedside lamp, glances at the red digits of his clock, 4:12. He picks up the phone, quickly alert.
Jack, it's Will. Is Jimmy Price still on Leighton Prince?
Yeah, he doesn't get out in the field much anymore. He works the single point index.
I think you better come to Atlanta.
Why? You said yourself the guy down here is good.
He is good, but not as good as Price.
What do you want him to do? Where would he look?
On the corneas of their eyes. I think he took his gloves off, Jack. I think he had to touch her.
Crawford's breath catches. He stares into the darkness.
Oh, Jesus. Price will have to gun it. The funeral's this morning.
Exterior Atlanta Police Headquarters day. In the early morning light, TV vans are double parked with camera crews and reporters setting up shots, starting their remotes, a huge story unfolding.
Gentlemen, ladies, this is what the subject teeth look like.
Interior squad room day. A large frontal view of the set of teeth, upper and lower, is tacked to the bulletin board. Dr. Princey, the chief medical examiner, moves in front of this photo enlargement. He holds up a white dental cast which matches the photo.
These impressions come from bite marks on Miss Leeds, as well as a clear bite mark on a piece of cheese from the Leeds refrigerator. This reconstruction was done at the Smithsonian in Washington, courtesy of our friends at the FBI.
There are about 30 detectives assembled here, sitting at schoolroom desks. Several heads now turn as they look back curiously, or with a hint of territorial hostility at Crawford, sitting in the back. His face remains steadily neutral. Graham, beside him, is uncomfortable in this very public, emotionally charged setting.
As you can see, he has 10 lines, the teeth here and here.
Sitting to one side down front are the commissioner, a tough-looking black man, Sipkins, a PR officer, and Buddy Springfield, chief of police, a burly man in his shirt sleeves.
That looking son of a bitch.
Some nervous laughter at this, mutters among the cops.
Knock it off.
Exterior Lombard Funeral Home day. An Atlanta PD patrol car screeches to a halt in front of a funeral home. Whose plump, dapperly attired owner, Mr. Lombard, is waiting anxiously. He hurries over to the car, opening its back door. Jimmy Price, a skinny old man, climbs out, lugging a case, camera bag, and tripod. He's in a foul temper.
Mr. Price, they called me from the airport to expect you, but really, sir, this is most irregular. I've got a major funeral starting in just... But really, sir, this is most irregular. I've got a major funeral starting in just...
This won't take a lot of time. I need one reasonably intelligent assistant, if you have one.
He shoves his tripod into the startled Mr. Lombard's arms, then walks grimly past him into the building.
Dr. Princey, the city's in a panic.
Interior squad room, day. Simpkins glances uneasily at the commissioner beside him.
The person is going to ask why it took 4 days to get the dental representation you got there. Would it be fair to say that the delay was caused by the FBI lab and not by this department?
Simpkins, the last thing we need is to start a pissing contest with the FBI. They've got a lot of expertise in this area. In particular, Investigator Graham does. Isn't that right, Jack?
Yes, sir.
Can you add anything, Mr. Graham?
Crawford raises his eyebrows at Graham, who looks uneasy.
You come up to the front.
Graham stands, walks forward reluctantly. It seems a long way. As he passes the seated detectives, he hears their whispers. Lecter. Guy that cut Lecter. Thought he died. Nah, but the son of a bitch about gutted him. When he turns to face them, the detectives go very still, as if they can read in his eyes a map of the things he's seen.
Mrs. Leeds and Mrs. Jacoby were the primary victims, the primary targets. The others were killed because they were there. I know that might be hard to accept given what you saw, but this wasn't random. It wasn't some killing frenzy. He was never out of control.
The detectives watch him intensely. The killer's enlarged teeth grin behind Graham, like those of a jack-o'-lantern.
These attacks were highly organized. Women carefully chosen. We don't know why he's choosing them or how, but they live in different states and never met, but there's some connection, some common factor, and that's the key. Find out what that is and we'll save lives. This one's going to go on and on until we either get smart or get lucky. We won't stop.
A woman detective in the front row speaks up quietly.
Why not?
He's got a genuine taste for it. And it makes him God. Would you give that up?
She's disturbed by his intimacy with the killer's feelings.
That's all I have.
A brief, uneasy silence as he heads back to his seat. Springfield replaces him at the front of the room.
Okay, airport and hotel details will make the rounds again today. Yes, again today. The rest of you, your assignments are on the sheets.
The detectives all start noisily rising, grabbing gear.
Last thing.
His stern bass voice sinks them back to their seats.
I've heard members of this command referring to the killer as the Tooth Fairy. I'd better not hear any police officer using that term in public. It sounds flippant. That is all.
Sound upcut. The many noises of a busy police department on full alert. Ringing phones, whirring copiers, voices.
We don't have shit and we know it!
Interior Chief Springfield's office, day. Springfield sits behind his crowded desk. Graham slumps in front of him, exhausted from his sleepless night.
You're doing fine. By the book. You have a good crew.
They are, but this kind of thing is out of our usual line. Thank God.
Crawford stands off to one side, murmuring into a phone, jotting down his messages. Other cops pass by in the hall outside. Springfield searches through some papers.
You asked about the dog? Here's a sheet on that. Last night, a vet here called Leeds' brother. He has the dog. Leeds and his oldest boy brought it in the afternoon before they were killed. It had a puncture wound in its abdomen, not its neck. The vet operated and it may pull through.
Was the dog wearing a collar with the Leeds address on it?
No.
Did the Jacobys in Birmingham have a dog?
No dog. They found a litter box in the basement with cat droppings in it. Didn't find any cat.
Crawford hangs up in time to see Graham consider this. His voice, when it comes, is soft, his mind ranging far away.
Cat was hurt too. Children might not have found it in time. They may have buried it. Ask Birmingham to check the backyard, under the shrubs, behind any outbuildings. Tell him to use a methane probe. It's faster.
Springfield looks at him a moment, impressed, before his attention is pulled away by a ringing phone.
Yeah, what?
He listens, looks at Crawford.
For you?
Crawford comes over, takes the phone.
Robert.
Interior Lombard funeral home. Reception room, day. Price stands by a big floral arrangement. Behind him, 5 gleaming bronze caskets in pitifully different sizes. Lombard leans over a half-open lid, making fretful adjustments.
Jack, I got a partial that's probably a thumb. It's a tented arch. Come off the oldest boy's left eye.
Intercutting, as Crawford's eyes meet Graham's.
Jimmy, you're the light of my life. Can you make an idea off it?
Graham turns, gazes out the window. His face is blank, closed like a lifer's. Springfield looks at him curiously.
If he's in the index, maybe that's a long shot, but it's good enough to eliminate suspects. Jack, or to nail this bastard. If you ever catch him, tell Graham he still ace.
Great work, Jimmy. Copies to Atlanta and Birmingham speedy. And the borough.
Crawford hangs up. Springfield looks at him, waiting.
Price found a print on the oldest boy's left eye. Partial thumb.
Springfield turns, staring at Graham with amazement, but also something very close to aversion. Graham can feel it.
That is, by God, spooky.
After a moment, Graham rises abruptly, walks out. The big cop's troubled stare follows him all the way out the door. Exterior sidewalk, day. Graham slips out a side door. In the distance, on the front steps, reporters, photographers, and TV crews, held back by manned barricades, are shouting questions at the commissioner and Simpkins, the harassed PR officer. Graham turns, striding away from all this fuss, when a small man darts up and out of an alley ahead of him, snaps his picture. His face pops up from behind the camera.
Will Graham, remember me? Freddie Lounds. I covered the Lecter case for the Tattler. I did the paperback.
I remember.
Graham keeps going. Lounds scuttles sideways ahead of him.
When did they call you in, Will? What have you got? Maybe the Tooth Fairy will be an even bigger story than Lecter. Hell, he's already beaten Lecter's score.
Graham moves swiftly, forcing Lounds up against a wall. His face is scary, but his voice stays low, very intense.
Lounds, you write lying shit, and the Tattler's an asswipe. Keep away from me.
A hand grabs Graham's shoulder from behind. It's Crawford. He pulls Graham, with some effort, away from the reporter.
Get away, Lounds. Go on, Will. Let's get some breakfast. Come on, Will.
They move away down the sidewalk, walking swiftly. Lounds is undaunted, stands there shouting after them.
How about an exclusive? Hey, I can help you guys.
Interior coffee shop, day. A mother tries to soothe her restless toddler. At another table, a family eats pancakes. Waiters come and go. Normal people far from the world of slaughter.
I'm not a freak, Jack.
Nobody said you weren't.
Crawford and Graham sit nearby in a booth. Graham is watching the mother and child. He's still upset.
The evidence was on the damn wall. It was right there for anybody to see.
But nobody else did. All I'm saying is that was very good work you did last night.
Last night I almost lost it. Alone in that house. Wasn't the same, Jack. Whatever I had or you think I had, it's not there now.
Listen, we catch a scumbag. That pit plus his teeth will burn you. You did that, Will.
It's not good enough. Or fast enough. I'm no use to you if I can't get my edge back. It was already in the back of my mind. Lounds put it at the front. There's only one person we know that can sharpen me up in a hurry.
Oh, Christ, Will. No, you can't. You're not ready for that.
Graham glances again at the family eating pancakes.
Wait till the next full moon. Then ask me how ready I am.
Crawford stares at him unhappily. Exterior, insane asylum, day. A grim Victorian pile of a building looms out of a misty rain. Meshed and barred windows, razor wire-topped fencing, and a security checkpoint manned by uniformed guards. Supertitle, Baltimore State Hospital for the Criminally Insane.
As a research subject, Lecter has proven most disappointing.
Interior, Dr. Chilton's office, day. Perched behind his ornate desk, eyeing Graham greedily, is Dr. Frederick Chilton, the hospital's chief of staff.
He's simply impenetrable to psychological testing. Rohrsbach, thematic apperception, he folds them into origamis, as you see.
Graham glances politely at an elaborate paper swan.
So you can imagine the stir your little visit is causing among my staff, Mr. Graham. If you'd care to share some insights.
Dr. Chilton, I'm sorry, but I got a 417 flight back to Atlanta.
Of course.
Interior asylum corridor, upper floor, day. A heavy steel gate clangs shut behind Graham, the bolt shooting home. He's carrying a thick manila file. Chilton walks ahead, still peevish. He glances back at the file.
No paper clips in there. No staples, brads, or ring binders.
I've read the security protocols, Dr. Chilton.
Then you see that you observe them. Though perhaps it's gratuitous to warn you, of all people, about how dangerous he can be.
Interior asylum corridor, lower floor, day. They're descending into darker, danker regions. Sweating stone walls, distant bangings, forlorn, echoing cries.
Tell me, when you saw Lecter's murders, their style, so to speak, were you able perhaps to reconstruct his fantasies? And if so, did you jot down any impressions?
Graham doesn't reply. Another steel gate creaks open and he goes through. Chilton follows, irritated. Interior security stronghold, day. Graham hands his .44 to a guard as another passes a wand over him, while a third examines the contents of his manila folder. A fourth guard watches monitors. In locked cases are guns, mouthpieces, mace, restraints, and padded gloves.
Let me be frank, Mr. Graham. The first definitive analysis of Lecter will be a publisher's wet dream. I'd give you full credit, of course.
One guard nods to another, who pushes a button. A final massive steel door whooshes open, and Graham, after taking back his manila file, walks through into a dark corridor. Chilton can no longer control himself.
Damn it, man, you caught him. You must have some advice. What was your trick?
I let him kill me.
The closing door erases Chilton's bewildered reaction. Interior Lecter's corridor, then cell, day. Graham turns, looks down the corridor. The cells to either side are dark. Only at the far end is one lit. Graham takes a breath, gathers himself, then walks quietly in that direction. Shadowy figures, low mutterings in the barred cells he is passing. Lecter's is different. Higher security, a thick barrier of plastic with a pass-through tray. The door is keyless with a computer touchpad. Inside, a bolted-down sink, toilet, table, and bookcase, with many soft-cover books. Also a cot on which the doctor is lying, turned to the wall, apparently asleep. An issue of Italian Vogue lies open beside him. Graham is looking at Lecter's back, trying to master his dread, when he's startled by the soft, abrupt voice.
That's the same atrocious aftershave you wore in court.
I keep getting it for Christmas.
Christmas, yes.
He rolls over, opens his eyes. The pale irises rake Graham.
Did you get my card?
Got it. Thank you.
So nice of the Bureau's crime lab to forward that. It would help if I had your home address.
Dr. Bloom sent me your article on surgical addiction in the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry.
And?
It's very interesting, even to a layman.
Lecter picks up his magazine, then raises politely.
A layman. Layman, interesting term. So many learned fellows going about, so many experts on government grants, and you say you're a layman, but it was you who caught me, wasn't it, Will?
I need your advice, Dr. Lecter.
Lecter crosses, returning his magazine to its tidy shelf.
Yes, I thought so. Birmingham and Atlanta. You want to know how he's choosing them, don't you?
I thought you'd have some ideas. I'm asking you to tell me what they are.
Why should I?
The things you don't have, research materials, maybe even computer access. I'd speak to the chief of staff.
Ah, yes, Dr. Chilton. Gruesome, isn't he? Fumbles at your head like a freshman pulling at a panty girdle. If you recall, Will, our last collaboration ended rather messily.
Get to see the file on the case. And there's another reason.
I'm all ears.
Thought you might be curious to find out if you're smarter than the person I'm looking for.
Lecter turns, comes closer, staring into Graham's eyes.
And by implication, you think you're smarter than I am since you caught me.
No, I know I'm not smarter than you.
How did you catch me, Will?
I'm a compulsive empath, remember? Then you had disadvantages.
What disadvantages?
You're insane.
Something flickers and dies behind the strange pale eyes.
You're very tan, Will. Your hands are rough. They don't look like a cop's hands anymore. That shaving lotion is something a child would select. It has a ship on the bottle, doesn't it? How is young Josh and the lovely Molly? They're always in my thoughts, you know.
Graham doesn't flinch, though Lecter's eyes claw his.
You won't persuade me with appeals to my intellectual vanity.
I don't think I'll persuade you at all. You'll do it or you won't.
Is that the file?
Yes.
With photos? Let me keep those and I might consider it.
Graham is sickened by his sudden avidity.
No.
Do you dream much, Will?
Goodbye, Dr. Lecter.
You haven't threatened to take away my books yet.
Graham walks away. Lecter raises his voice.
The entire file, then. Lend it to me. I'll tell you what I think.
Graham pauses, then returns, looks at him.
I'll need an hour in privacy.
After a moment, Graham stuffs his file into the pass-through, slams it in. Lecter looks at the folder a moment, then runs his finger lovingly across its cover. He smiles brightly.
Just like old times, eh, Will?
Interior, same corridor and cell, an hour later. The file lies open on Lecter's table. He stares down at the pages, his eyes filmed with thought. A pause.
This is a very shy boy, Will. I'd love to meet him. Have you considered the possibility that he's disfigured or that he may believe he's disfigured?
Graham, in the corridor, now sits in a folding chair.
Yeah, the mirrors.
Yes, you notice he smashes all the mirrors in the houses, not just enough to get the pieces he wants, and of course those shards in their eyes so he can see himself there.
That's interesting.
Not interesting. You'd thought of that before.
I considered it. What about the women?
Dead. They're mere puppets. You need to see them living, Will, the way they caught his eye.
It's impossible.
Almost. Not quite. What were the yards like?
Big backyards, fenced with some hedges. Why?
Because, my dear Will, if this pilgrim feels a special relationship with the moon, he might like to go outside and look at it. Have you seen blood in the moonlight, Will? It appears quite black. If one were nude, say, it would be better to have outdoor privacy for that sort of thing.
Think a yard might be a factor when he selects victims?
Oh, yes. And there will be more of them, of course. You'll be wanting lots of these little chinwags.
I may not have time.
I do. I have oodles.
I need your opinion now.
Yes? Then here's one. You stink of fear under that cheap lotion.
Goodbye, Dr. Lecter.
You stink of fear, Will.
Graham gets up abruptly, starting away.
But you're not a coward.
His words pin Graham in place, each one drilling into his back like tiny, precise darts.
You fear me, but still came here. Fear this shy boy, yet still you seek him out. Don't you understand, Will? Without imagination, we'd be just like all those other dullards. Fear is the price of your instrument. I can help you to bear it.
Graham turns, looks at him, tries to steady his voice.
Are you never afraid of anything, Dr. Lecter?
Yes, I fear being bored. In that context, you're less frightening than I expected. And now, if you'll excuse me, good day.
He returns to his cot, reclines, shuts his eyes, and instantly transports himself into Cardigavio's Rome. Graham's staring, feels like his skin has been peeled off. Exterior, insane asylum, day. Hurrying out of the madhouse too fast, Graham sways, has to clutch a pillar for support. He gasps for breath, trying to clear his brain. Lecter still crawls in there like a fly. Telephoto angle on him, and the rapid whir of a motor drive as a series of photos are snapped. Graham leaning on the pillar, then straightening, finally heading to his car.
Whoa, stop the presses.
The little reporter is staked out behind a van in the parking lot. He's with a photographer who looks up from his camera.
I always wanted to say that. Come on, we're out of here.
Chilton's gonna want his $500.
Fuck him, give him 50.
Exterior jet plane, flying, day. An American Airlines jet banks away from us through golden pink clouds, late afternoon, heading for Atlanta.
Sure you're okay?
I'm okay, Jack.
Interior jet plane flying, day. Graham, in his seat, is looking at propped up photos of the two families, Leeds and Jacoby. The Jacobys had 3 kids also, older daughter, son, younger daughter. Mrs. Jacoby was very pretty, with a slight resemblance to Mrs. Leeds.
What do you think he meant by see them living?
Not sure. Maybe nothing. It's hard to separate his bullshit. Anything on your end?
Interior Crawford's office, FBI building, night. Crawford is working late in his DC office. He wears reading glasses. On his wall, photos, notes, queries, and a map of the southeastern U.S. with airline routes highlighted between Birmingham and Atlanta, as well as other regional hubs.
Tried cross-matching airlines, car rentals, and motels in Birmingham and Atlanta, but came up empty.
Exterior Leeds backyard, Atlanta, night. Graham stands by a swimming pool, looking toward the latticed back porch. The kitchen door can't be seen from out here.
Same thing with the two families, plus their closest friends and relatives. We got no linkage. Will?
Interior Leeds garage, night. Graham turns on a light, stands looking at a ski boat, a station wagon, golf clubs, a trail bike, toys of the rich.
Also, the Jacoby house is up for resale. Maybe you better get down there before some realtor takes everything.
Interior Leeds den, night. Graham, frustrated, shuts a drawer in Charles Leeds' desk, looks around this cozy paneled room.
Birmingham's a cold trail, Jack. It's almost 5 weeks old.
Plaid sofas, hooked rugs, bookcases, a model ship, and a big TV set in a fancy wooden cabinet, drawers beneath.
First, I need another pass to the Leedses.
Interested, Graham walks over, kneels to an open drawer, sees a jumble of videos, kids' movies, grown-up classics, and a padded bulky mailer. When he tips this, small loose VHS-C tapes spill out. He flips to the handwritten titles. Pool Party, 6/2/86. Susie's Dance Recital, 2/9/86. Bobby's Birthday Bash, 12/4/85. There's also a full-size VHS tape in a handsome plastic container, mocked up to look like a Hollywood movie. Graham lifts this for a closer look. The title is Follow My Leads. Glossy photos of the family members with each face outlined by a star. The dog, a gray Scotty, gets his own star too. Lettering at the bottom reads, a feature-length VHS compilation. Interior, same, later. On the TV screen, the tape's opening credits are just ending. Bouncy canned music underneath. Mom is listed as a producer, Dad is the director. It's still all corny, but sweet. The opening shot is little Scotty asleep in a big leather chair. Graham glances down. He's sitting in the same chair, the dead man's chair. He touches its arm, then looks back at the TV screen. Sound of door opening. The dog jumps up, his stump of a tail wagging, trots toward the kitchen. Video camera follows him unsteadily. The back door opens and Mrs. Leeds comes in carrying groceries. The latticed porch is behind her.
And action.
She blinks and laughs in surprise as the children come in behind her carrying smaller sacks. The girl, Susan, is 6, Bobby, 8, and Charles Jr. is 10.
Bobby. Oh God.
Oh shoot. Go ahead, I lost my spot.
Oh God, Dad's making another movie.
Don't thank God.
Mrs. Leeds, still laughing, sets her bag down on a counter.
I am not ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
She leans over, shakes out her tousled hair, combing it with her fingers, then straightens up, striking a mock glamorous pose. The gesture is touching, oddly intimate. Graham, watching, feels his heart pierced. Interior Graham house, Florida, bedroom, night. Molly wakens to her ringing phone, picks it up, glancing at her clock, 12:34. Outside her window, the distant surf.
Hey, hotshot.
Hey, baby, where are you?
Intercutting as Graham watches the TV screen where the sound is now muted. The Leeds boys are playing ping pong in their basement.
Atlanta. Birmingham tomorrow. Sorry if I woke you.
No, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just need to hear your voice. How's Josh?
On the TV, a new scene, a pool party with family and guests. Kids silently splash, grown-ups silently chat, and the Scotty runs about, excited, silently barking.
He's good. He loves that new lure you made him. Want to have phone sex?
The video camera sneaks up on Mrs. Leeds, very sexy in a floral bathing suit, as she chats with a woman friend.
I don't think I could stand it. I think maybe better not do that.
Okay. You don't mind if we think about it, though.
Camera zooms in on Mrs. Leeds' cleavage, blurring a bit before she becomes aware of it. She laughs, getting up, and blocks the lens with her hand, saying something in protest.
Baby, are you still there?
Absolutely not. I mean, yeah, I don't mind if we think about it.
You're tired. Look, I love you and I miss you, but you're doing the right thing. It's costing you too. I know that. I'm proud of you, Will.
I love you, Molly.
I love you too, sweetheart.
Graham gently hangs up the phone. Mrs. Leeds backs up away from the lens, laughing, until her husband's hand appears in the shot, catching her wrist. Angle shifts, blurs a moment, and then auto-focuses as he extends the camera in one hand, pointed backwards, to catch the two of them kissing. Their guests silently laugh and applaud. Graham stares at the TV screen, haunted by this image. Exterior Jacoby House, Birmingham, day. Graham, at the wheel of a rented Buick, crunches past a realtors for sale sign, then stops. He's looking at a big split level with small outbuildings, flanked by a white fenced pasture. Behind the house, thick woods. A red van marked Safe Shield is parked in the gravel drive. Super title, Jacoby House, Birmingham, Alabama.
Won't nobody get in through here again?
Exterior side patio, day. Graham, on a flagged patio, stands by a kneeling workman who is installing a wrought iron security gate over a set of shiny new aluminum sliding glass doors.
I'll guarantee it. Not unless they got a bottle blowtorch.
Graham glances toward the front yard, sees the entrance sign to the development, Stonebridge, and another big house with good sightlines his way. He turns back, puzzled.
Why didn't he break in down there?
The workman follows his gaze past some shrubbery to a set of concrete steps leading down to a basement doorwell.
It's more hidden.
Hell, that door is flush steel with deadbolts. Reckon he was in too big a hurry.
No. This one doesn't hurry.
The man gives him a curious glance, then looks at the murder house. He shakes his head, uneasy at being there.
Good thing.
Interior Jacoby House, living room, day. Graham stands at the center of the empty room, turning slowly. Bare floors and dead air, sliced by the morning sunlight. No lingering vibrations of the killer. Interior master bedroom, day. Folded drop cloths, an 8-foot ladder, leftover cans of paint. Nothing for him here either. Graham glances into the master bath. It's over the sink mirror. It's new. It still has a manufacturer's sticker. He looks at himself. Exterior backyard, day. Graham walks along the back fence, studying the big yard. He pauses by a garden shed, looking at the ground. A small, shallow depression. The location is marked by a fresh triangle of yellow crime scene tape, tied to sticks. Graham kneels, studying this, touches the earth, looks toward the house, then again at the little grave. His expression changes as new and disturbing thought comes to him. Graham's imagination, killer's point of view. From a distance through the scrim of leaves, the 3 Jacoby children are seen standing in a solemn row, looking down to the shoebox laid in this freshly dug hole. The boy, Donald, is dwarfed by his shovel. The younger girl, Lisa, stoops to lay a handful of daisies on the box, then rises again. The big sister, May, takes both her siblings by their hands, comforting them. Graham's head snaps up at this awful intensity of this vision. Trembling, he pulls at his recorder, flicks it on.
Jack, the pets are like foreplay to him. He killed the cat, then waited for the children to find it. He had to see what they would, that he had to see that if he possibly could. And when he was waiting for hours, but where?
He turns slowly, stares. Head-high brush runs out from the fence about 30 yards to where the woods begin. Exterior dense woods, day. Graham has taken off his blazer. His shirt, under the leather shoulder rig, is drenched with sweat. He's on his hands and knees, exploring the dense carpet of pine needles and dead leaves. Something to one side catches his eye. A thumb-sized branch, neatly severed. Brown, withered leaves amid the bright green undergrowth. Graham stares at this. The white-faced end of a branch was clipped, not wind-broken. This needed some powerful tool with leverage. Slowly, slowly, Graham's eyes travel from the clipped-off branch to the elm tree behind it, then up its trunk. Exterior elm tree day. Climbing, already well up the tree, Graham reaches for a thick limb just above him, pulls himself up by it, gasping, then leans around the trunk. Close by his cheek, the small stub of a clipped branch juts out. It was removed to improve the view.
I love it. Oh, sweet Jesus, you were up here, weren't you?
His eyes travel further up. On the trunk, a patch of outer bark has been shaved away, exposing green inner bark. Centered in this is a curious carving. It looks like a stake piercing a hollow rectangle. Graham stares at this a long beat, then hauls himself into a sitting position on a big limb, which juts out at a right angle. He turns, looks across the open air. A clear view of the back and side of the Jacoby house, the Katz grave, the flagstone patios, the sliding doors, and then on the second floor, the master bedroom window. As Graham looks at this, he is seeing in his mind's eye. Graham's imagination, killer's point of view. Night, the moonlit house, a bright square of window. Mrs. Jacoby, hair wet from her shower, walks across the room, passing the window. She starts to slip off her bathrobe. Graham, staring at the same window in daylight, whispers,
"Are you ready for me? Because I'm coming."
He looks again at the carving, filled with grim exultation.
"I'm coming for you. Climbing right into your skull. It's you and me now, sport."
Closer on the strange symbol until it fills the screen. Exterior gravel road day. A weathered sign creaks in the wind. A jagged crack down its middle makes the resemblance to a tree carving. Its peeling letters read, Dolarhyde Ing Home. Behind this, a gravel road slithers through a neglected orchard, finally climbing up to a low rise to a big old country Gothic house. There's a black van parked out front. Super title, St. Charles, Montana. Is there? Exterior Dolarhyde's house. Veranda day. A wooden veranda surrounds the tall, once grand house. Down its crumbling length, a row of ancient rocking chairs stir in the breeze, ridden by ghosts. Moving angle past these, approaching the front door, as we hear a little boy's voice, oddly muffled, wet-sounding, tearfully scarred.
Emma, please, Emma.
Interior front hall day. Moving angle down the long, dark hall, passing a loudly ticking tall case clock. Ahead of us, an archway opening off to the right. Down at the end of the hall, a grand staircase.
Where's the... Oh, you dirty boy, I've never seen... Where's my teeth?
We come to an oil portrait of a stern, gray-haired old woman, grandmother Dolarhyde, wearing a 1940s dress. Her features and hairstyle make her resemble George Washington on the dollar bill. Her crooked teeth, revealed in a grim smile, match the dental mold we saw in Atlanta. The sound of dentures sliding from a glass, then a moist clackety noise as she puts them in.
I've never seen a child as dirty and disgusting as you. Look at you. You're soaking wet.
Interior ballroom day. Moving angle through a former ballroom, later converted to a downstairs ward. Rows of dusty sheeted cots, each with its bedpan still in place. Its pitcher and glass on a stand, a big TV set, a couch, and some armchairs down at one end, along with 2 or 3 old-fashioned wooden wheelchairs. We are becoming aware of a new sound, a rhythmic thumping.
Get out. Get out of my bed. Upstairs. Go on now. Back up to your room.
Interior staircase day. Moving angle up the staircase. A frayed Victorian carpet runner held by brass rods. Faded black and white photos in gilt frames. Society images from grander times.
My daughter was a filthy whore, and you're no better. I'm not your husband. Shut up, filthy little beast. I should have left you in an orphanage, grandson or not.
The rhythmic thudding is growing ever louder and now mixes with other sounds, gasps and groans. Interior attic hallway, day. Moving angle down a long hall towards the open doorway of a garret room. The room is lit reddish with swirling points of light, as if it were in flames. The thuds and gasps are louder, accompanied by a kind of frenzied whimpering.
Take off your nightshirt and wipe yourself off. Hurry up!
Interior garret room, day. Moving angle past a lonely twin bed and nightstand, then a shadowy alcove with an old roll-top desk, the doorway to a bathroom. Overhead, a mirrored ball spins, firing off reflections from a red spotlight.
Now, give me my scissors from the medicine chest.
We come at last to a gym area, barbells, speed bag, and a weight bench, where a thickly muscled man wearing only gym shorts is flat on his back, pumping iron. He gasps and whimpers with the strain, punishing himself to some new standard of perfection. He wears a stocking mask, rolled down over his face. His sculpted physique is reflected from a tall standing mirrors.
Take that filthy thing in your hand and stretch it out. Do it now. Look down. Do you want me to cut it off? Do you? No, I'm not. I pledge you my word, Francis. If you ever make your bed dirty again, I'll cut it off. Do you understand?
Both the little boy and the man on the bench cry out simultaneously. The man drops his barbell onto the uprights of the clank and lies there trembling, drenched with sweat. On his nightstand, 2 squat glasses, each holding a set of dentures. One set is the crooked yellow teeth that were once grandmother's. The second set is normal. Powerful fingers reach into frame, scoop the second set from its glass. Interior garret room, day. Close on the shattered mirror over a medicine cabinet with many shards missing.
Look in this mirror. And then look!
Sound of shattering glass. The boy's voice cries out. After a moment, the grown-up man steps in front of the mirror. He has rolled the stocking mask up to his nose. We see only his lower face, weirdly fragmented by the mirror's missing pieces. His cheeks look strangely hollow. He has a surgically repaired cleft palate.
See that ugly mouth? That's the devil's mark. That's why no woman will ever love you.
His big hand covers his mouth for a moment. We hear a moist, clackety sound. When it comes away, he's inserted his good, normal dentures.
Except for me, Francis. Only me. Never forget that.
The straight white teeth gleam just for an instant in an awful rictus of a smile. Interior garret alcove, day. A semi-human dragon on an art poster looms over a reclining woman. In its niche above the old desk, lit by candles, this poster forms the centerpiece of a shrine. As we look at the fiercely muscled dragon, the grandmother's voice morphs slowly into a different voice, the deeper, more spectral male voice of the dragon himself.
Now go back to bed. No more sniveling.
Yes, Mama.
Seated below the poster, his back to us, is a muscular man. He's now wearing a silk kimono. He has a close-cropped blonde hair. He rolls open the desktop, revealing an impressive array of camera equipment. A 9mm Glock with a homemade silencer, a sawed-off shotgun, bundled sticks of dynamite, as well as his huge black ledger already familiar to us. Carefully, reverently, he opens this. Across the first page in hand-illuminated letters, we see again the words, "Behold, great red dragon." Loose between the pages, a yellowed photo of a little boy clinging to his grandmother's skirt on the porch of the same house. The man leaves over, his face in shadows, and picks up a new clipping from the loose pile of newspapers on the floor. Carefully, he presses this into a place on the blank page. Will Graham in the photo snapped outside the asylum. Above this, Freddie Lounds grinning in his byline portrait, and the screaming Tadler headline, "Insane fiend consulted in Tooth Fairy murders by same cop he tried to kill." A red marker pen appears, angrily slashes out the words Tooth Fairy, then circle Lounds' face. The offending page is turned, then a few more, before the thick fingers pause. Hannibal Lecter, tuxedoed and suave from an old pre-arrest society photo. There are many Lecter photos. He's an idol. The man's thick fingers hover over this page for a moment, then touch the doctor's face admiringly.
Carved this on a tree?
Exterior Insane Asylum, exercise pen, day. Lecter, in his prisoner's jumpsuit, walks along briskly. He's examining, with some interest, a photo of the curious symbol. It's startling to see the doctor in sunlight, his pale flesh like a floater's.
Yeah, with a buck knife. Yeah, the same one he later used on Charles Leeds.
Lecter reaches the end of his asphalt pad, turns neatly without looking up, years of practice, and starts back in the other direction. He's in a long, narrow pen, like a dog run. Its high, heavy mesh bristles with electric coils. At one end, a closed steel hatch leads back to the asylum. Graham, outside this pen, has to walk quickly to keep up with the doctor's pace.
He had a second tool, too, a bolt cutter. He used that to clear his view.
What?
But I don't think that's what he brought it for. It's too heavy. It's too awkward. I need to carry it a long way.
What do we make of this?
Still striding, he holds up the photo.
I don't like to admit it, but we're stumped. Any thoughts?
Do you take me for a child, Will? Do you think I'm simple?
All right. Asian studies at Langley identified it as a Chinese character. It appears on a mahjong piece. Marks the red dragon.
Red dragon, correct. This boy begins to interest me.
Doctor, we don't know what greater meaning this symbol might have for him. If you could just...
Like my little cage, Will, my so-called lawyer is always nagging Chilton for better accommodations. I don't know which is the greater fool.
I thought perhaps with your insight...
A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. Ever been a redbreast, Will? Of course you have. I'm only allowed 20 minutes out here once a week. Get to the point.
He stops abruptly, turning towards Graham.
I think he meant to use the bolt cutter to enter the house, but he didn't. Instead, he broke in sloppily through the patio doors. The noise woke Jacoby and he had to shoot him on the stairs. That wasn't planned. It's not like him.
Mustn't judge too harshly, Will. It was his first time. Have you never felt a sudden rush of panic?
Graham is pinned by his gaze. The steel mesh between them suddenly seems very flimsy. Lecter's voice is rapid, harsh.
You sensed who I was, that I was committing what you call my crimes.
Yes.
So you were hurt not by a fault in your perception or your instincts, but because you failed to act on them until it was too late.
You could say that.
You're wiser now.
Yes.
Then you wouldn't make that same mistake again. In the unlikely event, let us say, that you should never encounter these pilgrims.
Probably not. I think not.
Imagine what you would do if you could go back.
Put two in your head before you could ever palm that stiletto.
Very good, Will. I believe we're making progress. I'd like to see that video of the Leeds family.
No.
Why not?
It'd be obscene.
Don't make it easy, do you? Still, one aims to please. I'll call you if I think of anything else. Would you like to give me your home number?
Behind them, the deep rasp of the steel hatch sliding up. Graham turns his head, looks over at it, then back at Lecter, whose pale eyes have never left him.
End of the session, I think, Doctor.
For now. This is only his first time. Already in Atlanta, he did much better. Rest assured, my dear Will, this one.
He holds out the photo. When it touches the wires, there's a bright blue flash, then it bursts into flames.
There's no flash in the pan.
Graham turns angrily, walks away across the courtyard as Lecter watches him go. His head tilts like a curious bird's.
Go to the back of the cell, Dr. Lecter. Face the wall.
Interior Lecter's cell, day. Lecter does as commanded, quite meekly, while behind him a pair of tense orderlies opens the door and enter the cell. One levels a large-bore air rifle, while the other has a can of mace and a phone, its long cord trailing down the corridor.
If you turn around before you hear the lock snap, you'll get a dart. Understood?
Oh, yes, indeed.
The second guard sets down the phone, then they both back out quickly, eyes fixed always on Lecter, then slam his door.
You've got 10 minutes to talk to your lawyer.
Thanks so much. You're too kind.
Robespierre, Robin.
Interior bookstore, day. Graham is in an information desk where a pretty young bookseller with a flash of green hair is studying a copy of Bartlett's. She runs her much-ringed finger down the page.
Robin call for, Robin fainting. Ta-da! Red breast in a cage. 406.9.
She flips pages quickly, finds the right quotation.
A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. William Blake, Auguries of Innocence.
Do you have that?
Should have. Got a book of Blake's paintings too. Want to see it?
Interior Lecter's cell, day. Lecter lounges on his cot, cradling his receiver. We hear a woman's voice on the other end of the line.
Psychology department, Dr. Bloom's office.
Oh, hi, this is Bob Greer at Blaine and Edwards Publishing. Dr. Bloom asked me to send a copy of The Psychiatrist in the Law to Will Graham, and his secretary was supposed to give me the address and phone number, but darn it, she never did.
I'm just a graduate assistant. Linda will be in on Monday.
Gosh, I have to catch FedEx in about 5 minutes, and I hate to bother Dr. Bloom about it at home because he told Linda to send it, and I don't want to get her in hot water. It's right there in her Rolodex or whatever. I'll dance at your wedding if you'll read it to me.
I don't know. I'm really not.
Be a darling and flip that little rascal. I won't take up any more of your time. Graham, comma, William.
All right, just a minute. It doesn't give the address of his house.
What does it have, dear?
Federal Bureau of Investigation, 10th in Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C. Oh, and let's see, P.O. Box 3680, Marathon, Florida.
That's fine. You're an angel.
You're welcome.
The doctor hangs up, smiles thoughtfully. Interior bookstore, day. Strange, ethereal images slip past her eyes, angels and devils, feverish colors, as Graham sits at a table flipping through a large book of Blake's watercolors, until one especially startling image makes him stop, look closer. The same painting is in Dolarhyde's shrine, a horned, winged, thickly muscled man-dragon with human legs and a tail. He's poised in a sexual menace above a reclining, helpless woman. She is apparently wrapped in flames. Graham's eyes travel down the caption, The Red Dragon and the Woman Clothed with the Sun, circa 1803-1805, courtesy of the Brooklyn Museum of Art. As Graham stares at this, struck by its eerie power, the cute bookseller comes up, glances over his shoulder.
Weird.
Yeah.
Looks like a pretty hot date, though.
She smiles, flirting a bit. Graham smiles back. Exterior Chromolux Inc. Day. A large, flat-roofed, dun-colored building, nearly identical to all the others in the vast industrial park. Super title, St. Louis. Interior Chromolux Incorporated Day. The hum of machinery as we follow a cropped blonde head, broad shoulders, in a white lab coat, through a labyrinth of corridors. We catch glimpses of rooms dense with some sort of high-tech equipment. Other workers passing in the hall glance briefly at the man's face, then away out of respect or perhaps uneasiness. Interior Infrared Lab Day. A sign beside a door reads, Infrared sensitive materials in use. No safe lights, no smoking, no hot beverages. The red light is on above the sign. Our thick forefinger reaches out, pushes a button. After a moment, the light turns green, and we open a door, enter the light trap, and then rap on an inner door.
Come.
We enter into a cool, almost absolute darkness. The gurgle of water, the slight creak of desk chair. Then, for the first time, we hear the blonde man's shy, cautious voice. He doesn't like to speak to people. Every word is a bit of a strain.
I'm Francis Dolarhyde. I came for that package of infrared.
Oh, right. Put your back against the door, come forward 3 steps until you feel the tile under your feet, and there will be a stool just to your left.
Dolarhyde moves through the dark, squeak of the stool as he sits, the rustle of her lab apron, very close to him.
The same Mr. D who's head of the tech services over in the main plant, am I right?
The very one.
I'm Reba McClane. Just a second more and we'll get you some light. There we go. Okay, let me just put this stuff in the black hole.
The door closes on rubber seals, the hiss of a vacuum lock, then the slight squeak of her sneakers as she passes him. After a moment, the lights come on. Reba McClane stands by the door, smiling in his approximate direction. She has a handsome prairie face, a page boy, freckles. Her eyes make small, random, unseeing movements. Dolarhyde stares at her, surprised. We see his face clearly for the first time, even as Reba cannot. A white scar line runs from his upper lip to his nose, but his features are otherwise unremarkable, even attractive, except for his wary, predatory eyes, hazel, almost yellow. They flash towards her white cane propped at a corner, then back to the woman herself. He can stare at her all he wants, a strange and wonderful freedom.
What do you need the IR for?
Dolarhyde tries to avoid the S words, but when he can't, he says them very carefully.
It's for the zoo, the world of darkness. They want to photograph the nocturnal animals.
Oh, that's great. I love animals.
She crosses the lab unerringly, stops by a refrigerator, opens it without fumbling, bends over to reach for something on the back of a shelf.
I gotta warn you though, this stuff is pretty hot. Sensitive up around 1000 nanometers. And the more sensitive it is, the meaner it is to handle.
She turns around with a small shrink-wrap package, holds it out to his general direction.
But I guess I don't have to tell you that.
Dolarhyde takes the package, disturbed and aroused to be alone with her. So close, almost touching. Sound of the door behind them. They both turn as a co-worker, Ralph Mandy, pokes his head in breezily.
Reba. Yo, Mr. D. Whoa, I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
No, Ralph.
Listen, Reba, it's starting to spritz out there. How about I give you a lift home?
Ride a motorcycle, Ralph. How does that help me with the rain?
Yeah, well, I thought maybe we'd stop off somewhere for a little sundowner.
I've already
Spots
got a
of
ride.
color appear in her cheeks.
You sure I can't change your mind?
Can manage very well, thank you.
Hey, that's cool. No problemo.
Before going, he leers at Dolarhyde, tilts his head towards Reba, then pumps his forearm lewdly. Hot stuff, huh, boss? The door bangs shut behind him. Reba crosses angrily, starting to collect her handbag, raincoat, headscarf, and cane.
There's anything I hate worse than pity, it's fake pity. Especially from a walking hard-on like Ralph Mandy. Sorry.
Dolarhyde is startled, uncertain how to respond.
I have no pity.
Reba pauses, looks in his direction, smiles gratefully. Exterior parking lot night. POV angle through a rain-streaked window as Reba follows a concrete divider across the parking lot, tapping the edge with her cane until she reaches a bus stop. She stands under the shelter waiting. Rain blows in on her. Dolarhyde, 100 feet away, watches her from behind the closed window of his van. His feelings make him uneasy. They're dangerous to him and Reba both. After a moment, he makes an unprecedented, impulsive decision, starts his van. Exterior bus stop night. Reba looks up at the sound of a van as it splashes up beside her, then idles. The window whooshes down.
Ride with me.
Thanks, but I take the bus all the time.
Mandy is a fool. Ride with me. For my pleasure.
She's surprised, then pleased by his unexpected chivalry. Exterior Dolarhyde's van, driving, night. Dolarhyde eases up to the curb in front of a duplex in a quiet neighborhood, glances at her mailbox to be sure he's got the right address. Then, gripping the steering wheel tensely, he stares straight ahead through his wipers. Reba, beside him, measures his quiet as shyness.
Want to come in? I'll fix us a drink.
He turns, looks at her, her pretty face, her unseeing eyes glowing like mirror shades in the dashboard lights. After a moment, his silence makes her smile falter a bit.
Okay then, maybe another time.
I will. Come in.
Interior Reba's apartment, living room, night. Reba stands her cane in a corner and is suddenly free. She moves about with amazing ease, hanging her coat in a closet, dropping her bag on a chair, switching on lights. She's nervous, excited. Not much use to men in here.
How about a gin and tonic?
He watches closely, fascinated by her physical assurance.
Tonic will be fine.
You're not a drinker?
No.
I'll make us some coffee then. And maybe a piece of pie? Carrot pecan? It's dynamite.
Fine.
Interior kitchen night. Reba turns away from her refrigerator with a whole pie, sets it down in center island where Dolarhyde sits stiffly upright on a stool, nearby as she started coffee.
When is the zoo project?
Maybe next week. They'll call.
She goes to a wood block, removes a knife, testing its sharpness with her finger. She sets it down near Dolarhyde. He looks at the gleaming blade.
I love zoos. In fact, one of my favorite memories is seeing a cougar when I was about 5.
He stares at her with renewed wariness. She misreads his silence as tact, smiled appreciatively.
I didn't lose my sight till I was 7. A piece of barbed wire flew up from a lawnmower and whacked me.
She spans the pie with her fingers, bringing her thumbs together to locate its center, then marks this with a toothpick. She puts her middle finger on the left hand on the toothpick, her thumb on the edge of the tin.
Could you hand me that knife?
He picks up the knife, feeling its power, looks at her. She smiles, extends her palm unguarded. He makes himself reverse the blade, placing the handle gently in her outstretched palm. She cuts him a piece of pie, guiding the knife with her left index finger. He watches her handle the bright blade. Snick, snick. She sets his piece out on a plate.
Anyway, I've always tried to hang on to what that cougar looked like, although by now, to tell you the truth, what I see in my head is probably not. Anyway, I've always tried to hang on to what that cougar looked like, though by now, to tell you the truth, what I see in my head is probably not the least bit like a cougar. More like a donkey or a goat.
She finds him a fork in a drawer, sets that by his plate.
Sometimes I'm not so sure anymore I really saw him, you know? Like maybe something I just dreamed up. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
You don't say much, do you?
Mm-mm.
Let's talk about something else for a minute and get it out of the way, okay?
Silence. She moves closer to him. He's barely breathing.
I can hear you've had some kind of soft palate repair. I understand you're fine because you speak very well. If you don't want to talk to me, that's cool. But I hope you will. And I know what it's like to have people always thinking you're different.
That's good.
May I touch your face? I want to know if you're smiling or frowning. I want to know whether just to shut up or not.
She holds her hand out, waiting. He stares at her, astounded, then takes her wrist between his thumb and forefinger. A living woman. Strange feeling. He brings her fingers close to his teeth. How easy it would be to snap them off. Snick, snick. He can't let her touch his mouth. He cannot. But by great effort of will, he spares her life.
Take my word that I'm smiling.
He holds her wrists away and releases it. Her hand settles to the countertop, fingers trailing like an averted glance. A silence, deeply weighted. She smiles, too brightly.
I think our coffee's ready.
I'm going.
She nods sadly. He rises, heading to the kitchen doorway.
If I offended you, I didn't mean to.
He turns, looking at her, still furiously aroused, at war with himself, but his voice is soft.
No.
He goes out to the living room, and she listens for the click of the lock as he pulls her front door closed behind him. She shakes her head wryly. What an idiot I am. Then after a moment, puts her fingertips gently on the stool where he was sitting, still warm. She smiles.
I've been to their house, yeah.
Exterior FBI building day. The massive headquarters of the FBI looms over Pennsylvania Avenue as cars and taxis stream by. We hear office sounds. Super title, J. Edgar Hoover Building, Washington, D.C.
But I still don't have much sense of what the Jacobys were really like.
Interior Task Force Office Day. Graham is using a borrowed desk in a far corner of a special task force office. Walls and bulletin boards are covered with case photos, maps, lists, assignments. In the BG, other agents are also working phones or conferring.
It would help if I could see some of their personal effects. Like diaries, pictures, letters. Do you have those things, Mr. Metcalf?
Interior Law Office, Birmingham, day. Byron Metcalf, an overweight good old boy, leans back in his leather desk chair, looking out his window.
Sure do. Other than one or two little keepsakes that now Jacoby got.
Intercutting, as Graham glances down a file, ticking off the name.
And that would be Mr. Jacoby's surviving son by his first wife?
That's right. As their executor, I keep all the stuff in lockboxes with the small valuables. They're still after probate, but Birmingham PD's been all through it.
Crawford enters the task force room, spots Graham, hurries towards him, looking unusually tense and excited.
Could you pack those effects and ship them up here? I hate to ask. I know it's a pain in the ass.
Ah, yeah. Probate judge is a golf buddy of mine. Just tell me you're gonna nail this son bitch.
Crawford twirls a finger. Hang up. It's urgent.
We're doing our best, Mr. Metcalf. Thanks. Thanks so much.
He hangs up, looks at Crawford expectantly.
Will, the note, you didn't like yourself. Sounds like a fan letter. Maybe from the Tooth Fairy.
Graham stares at him, his mind already racing.
He wants like his approval. He's curious about you. He's asking questions. That's ready to scramble a chopper. Will?
Does Lecter know we have the note?
Interior Asylum, Lecter's cell, day. A uniformed cleaning man is wiping down the sink with a wad of toilet paper. As he spins a new handful off the roll, two loose pieces of tissue come loose, settling to the tiles. He stares at the dense, spidery handwriting on them.
Not yet. It was found during the routine cleanup.
Where's Lecter now?
Interior holding cage, day. Lecter sits on a metal bench, his back against a cinder block wall. Quite relaxed, eyes shut, apparently daydreaming. His wrists are cuffed behind his back.
Still in the holding cage.
Can he see himself in there?
Lecter's eyes open. Across from him, through the steel bars, is a narrow band of corridor.
No, but he's already been there almost half an hour. Pretty soon he'll start to wonder what's wrong.
Interior Task Force Office, day. The other agents fall silent, looking toward the huddled Graham and Crawford, picking up on their excitement. Three of them, Baker, Rankin, and Willingham, drift his way.
Gotta buy some time, Jack. Create a diversion.
Crawford looks at him for a moment and grabs up a phone receiver, punches one of the blinking orange buttons.
Dr. Chilton, call your building superintendent or engineer, whoever's in charge. Tell him to pull the circuit breakers on Lecter's hall. Have the super walk down the hall past the holding cell carrying tools. He'll be in a hurry, pissed off, too busy to answer any questions. Got it? And don't touch the note, okay? Graham's on his way.
He hangs up, looks at the tense faces of its gathering team.
Got a note coming in on the fly, possibly from the Tooth Fairy. Number one priority has to go back to Lecter's cell within the hour, unmarked. We'll leave here and fiber latent prints, then documents. I'll walk it through myself. Let's go, people.
Exterior Washington landscape, day. An FBI helicopter flashes by with Potomac below and the Washington Monument in the distance.
Dear Dr. Lecter, I wanted to tell you that I am delighted that you have taken interest in me.
Exterior rooftop helipad, day. Graham climbs out of the helicopter, ducking his head against the heavy wash of the air from the still whirling blades. He's carrying a document case.
And when I learned of your vast correspondence, I thought, dare I? Of course I do.
He hurries towards Crawford and Baker, who's propping a door open. As Crawford grabs the case, Baker says something to his walkie-talkie. Interior hair and fiber lab, day. The note, on two pieces of toilet paper, is now within a plastic sheath clipped to atop a light box. The top piece is a ragged hole where part of the text has been torn out. More of the text near the tattered edge has been inked over.
I don't believe you tell them who I am.
On the second piece of the note, below the signature, avid fan, are two deeply indented semicircles, bite marks.
Besides, what particular body I currently occupy is trivial.
A white gloved technician, Beverly Katz, squeezes a remote as her tripod-mounted camera flashes motor drive photos.
The important thing is what I am becoming. I know what you alone can understand this.
Under a powerful magnifier, she reaches inside the plastic sheath with fine tweezers, removing a tiny piece of blonde hair from the paper fiber. Carefully, with maddening precision, she places this hair on the gas line envelope. Crawford, beside her, glances at his watch.
I have some things I'd love to show you. If circumstances permit, I hope we can correspond.
Graham hands Katz a copy of the killer's dental mold. She holds this up to the impressions of the note. They match exactly. She looks at Graham and Crawford, excited. Interior asylum, holding cage, day. The holding cage in the corridor outside is suddenly go dark. Lecter looks up, interested.
I have admired you for years, and I have a complete collection of your press notices. Actually, I think of them as unfair reviews, as unfair as mine.
Interior latent fingerprints lab, day. Crotchety old Jimmy Price stares unhappily at the porous toilet paper as a technician scans it with a helium-cadmium laser. As the paper fluoresces, glowing smudges appear on it, oily stains, perspiration. No readable prints.
They do like to sling demeaning nicknames, don't they? The Tooth Fairy. What could be more inappropriate?
The old man, frustrated, turns to Crawford and Graham, shakes his head. Nothing he can do for them. Interior asylum corridor, day. The building super in overalls strides down the shadowy corridor, carrying a toolbox and muttering irritably to himself as instructed.
It would shame me for you to see that if I didn't know you have suffered the same distortions in the press.
As the super passes the holding cage, keeping well clear of the bars, Lecter's eyes follow him. The man's giving a pretty good performance, not overplaying it.
The main thing, the first thing, is how Lecter was meant to reply.
Interior document lab, day. A new analyst, Lloyd Bowman, a thin, bespectacled black man, places the two parts of the note, with tweezers, between pieces of glass. Crawford and Graham hover nearby.
How much longer do we have?
10 minutes max.
Bowman focuses a small TV camera on the note, then darkens the room till there's only the dull red glow of a lamp and a blue-green of his monitor screen.
Instructions for answering were probably in the section Lecter tore out. Why didn't he just throw the whole thing away?
It's full of compliments. Couldn't bear to part with them.
Bowman glances at him, intrigued. Graham rubs his temples.
Now we can mash, just a little.
The tattered edges, smeared with ink, appeared magnified on his monitor. As he mashes the glass gently, these edges flatten, becoming less jagged. He's muttering to himself.
You're so sly, but so am I.
Below the words, I hope we can correspond, we can now make out through the vermilion ink smears fragments of writing, the tops of letters.
Aniline dyes and colored inks are transparent to infrared. These could be the tips of T's here and here. On the end, that's a P or possibly an R.
Jack, there's only one safe way to carry on communication that's one-way blind.
Publication. We noticed Sweetheart raised a tattler. The stuff about you and Lecter was in there. I don't know of any other paper that carried it.
Maybe the Tooth Fairy wants them to answer the personal columns.
3 T's and an R in Tatler.
Crawford and Graham stare at him. Yes.
Tattler comes out this evening. It's printed in Chicago on Mondays and Thursdays. We got proofs of the classified pages. Great work, Lloyd.
Graham snatches up the two pieces of the note, still sandwiched in the glass, and puts them in the document case.
Tell Chilton I'm on the way.
Interior helicopter flying, day. Graham sits looking out a window at the Washington landscape as it flashes below him. He holds the case in his lap.
Investigator Graham interests me. Odd looking for a flatfoot, isn't he? Not very handsome, but purposeful looking. You should have taught him not to meddle.
Interior asylum, Lecter's cell, day. Special Agent Rankin, whose face we recognize from the task force office, kneels by Lecter's toilet. He wears a borrowed overalls of the maintenance worker, but with white cotton gloves. Very carefully, he is replacing the two pieces of the note into Lecter's toilet paper roll, exactly as they were.
Forgive the stationery. I chose it because it will dissolve very quickly if you should have to swallow it.
Interior asylum corridor, day. Rankin slips out of the open cell door, slams it, peels off his gloves, then quickly grabs a mop from a bucket just as Lecter appears at the end of the corridor, being wheeled back toward his cell on a hand truck, under full restraints. The doctor's masked face glides closer and closer, moving with eerie smoothness as if he can fly.
If I hear from you next time, I might send you something wet.
As Lecter passes him, Rankin averts his gaze. Lecter's eyes rake over him briefly and catch the sight of the white cotton gloves bobbing from his back pocket. Interior Security Stronghold Day. Graham, Willingham, and Chilton watch on a monitor as Lecter's guards push him back into his cell, stand him upright, and begin the careful unstrapping process. Rankin continues to mop nearby, moving gradually away from the cell.
Until then, dear doctor, I remain your most avid fan.
Graham and Willingham exchange a tense glance. Did it work?
The tailor got an ad order that's signed 666, Baltimore postmark on the envelope.
Interior Task Force Office Day. Crawford, on a phone, swivels toward Graham, who is just returning, accompanied by Bowman. Nearby, a fax machine is starting to clatter. Other agents in the background are discreetly following this drama.
It's set to run this afternoon. Chicago field office is sending in a text through now.
He hangs up, and the three of them gather impatiently around the incoming fax. Finally, Crawford rips it from the machine. He spreads the flimsy out of the desk. They huddle over it.
Dear Pilgrim, you honor me.
That's it. Lecter called him a pilgrim when we talked about him.
You're very beautiful. Christ. For 100 prayers for your safety. Find help in John 6:22, 8, chapter 8:16, chapter 9, verse 1, Luke chapter 1, verse 7.
Code.
Has to be.
We got 19 minutes to get a message in if we can break this. The teller can't hold his presses back any longer.
Bowman sits down, aligns the fax precisely with the corners of the blotter. He studies it intently as Crawford calls over Baker, one of the other agents.
Tell Chicago to fax second copy of this to the cryptography section and Langley. Then get on the horn with them and coordinate.
As Baker rushes to a phone, Crawford looks to Bowman.
Minutes.
I understand. It's something simple. They only needed cover against casual readers. I'm guessing it's a book code.
Book code.
The first numeral, 100 prayers, could be a page number. The paired numbers after that could be line and letter, but what book?
Not the Bible.
No, he's got Galatians chapter 15, verse 2 here. Galatians only has 6 chapters. Same with Jonah 6:8. Jonah has 4 chapters. He wasn't using a Bible.
The tooth fairy in the book to use. He specified in his note, in the part like they're tore out.
It would appear so. What about sweating Lecter in a mental hospital? I would think drugs.
They tried sodium amytal on him 3 years ago, trying to find out where he buried a Princeton student. He gave him a recipe for dip. Besides, if we sweat him, we lose the connection.
If the tooth fairy picked the book, then it's something he knew Lecter would have himself.
Can we get a list of his books?
Chilton, maybe. No, wait! Rankin and Willingham, when they tossed the cell, they took Polaroids so they could put everything back in place.
Bowman is already stuffing the fax into his briefcase.
Ask them to meet me with pictures of his bookshelves.
Where?
The Library of Congress.
He hurries out. Crawford looks at his watch, shakes his head.
Well, we're left with 3 choices and we've got to decide right now. We can pull Lecter's message out of the paper and run nothing.
Might trigger a timing alarm.
Or we can substitute our own message in plain language, inviting the tooth fairy to some mail drop where we've set up a stakeout
Or we can let Lecter's ad run as is. I hate to put it in plain language, Jack. Lecter will probably never hear from him again.
Yeah, but I'm leery of letting Lecter's message run without knowing what it says.
They look at one another unhappily, a beat.
I say let this one run. Meanwhile, we keep working on the code. At least it'll encourage Tooth Fairy to contact him again.
What if it encourages him to do something besides write?
Jack will feel sick for a long time, but this is our best shot.
Crawford finally nods, reaches for his phone. Interior Tadler Press Room, Chicago, day. Copies of the tabloid rattle down the metal conveyor belts, dropping onto open racks where other machines bundle and wire them, then roll them along. Dust rises as pressmen move about. The noise is thunderous. Super title, National Tadler Building, Chicago, Illinois. A hand reaches into a stream of descending newspapers, pulls out a copy. A pair of FBI agents wearing headsets against the din ignore the front of the news. Head transplant. Astronomers glimpse God. Flipping instead to the back pages, the classifieds, till they find Lecter's small boxed message beginning, Dear Pilgrim. The agents exchange a grim nod. So far, so good. They turn, watching the stream of newspapers as it head towards waiting trucks where the bundles are being loaded. Some trucks are already pulling away, taking Lecter's coded message out into the world. The roar of the press room now crossfades to the ringing of interior Crawford's house, bedroom, night. A telephone on Crawford's bedside table, waking him. He grabs the receiver, then takes a quick glance to his wife, still sleeping. He rolls away from her, murmurs.
Crawford.
Interior Library of Congress, study Carol, night. Bowman, exhausted, sits amongst books, scrawled legal pads, wadded papers, and propped up Polaroids of Lecter's cell. He's staring at a copy of The Joy of Cooking.
Bowman.
This is Lloyd Bowman. I saw the code. You need to know what it says right now.
Okay, look.
It says Graham home, Marathon, Florida. Save yourself. Kill them all.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Exterior JW Marriott Hotel, Washington, night. In the distance beyond Graham's hotel, the White House is illuminated. Fountains splash on the mall.
Well, Bowman just broke the code.
Interior Graham's motel room, night. Graham, in a t-shirt and boxers, sits up on the edge of his bed. He turns on a lamp, glancing at his clock. 1:23.
What did it say?
Interior Crawford's house, den, night. Crawford, still in his pajamas and slippers, is now at the desk in his den. He's got on his reading glasses.
Wait a second. Now listen to me. Everything is okay. I've taken care of it. So stay on the phone when I tell you.
Tell me now.
Cutting.
Is your home address? Is your home address? Lecter gave the bastard your home address.
Graham's receiver dangles, abandoned. Exterior Florida highway, night. 5 police cars in a van. Highway patrol, sheriff's department, and SWAT team race across a bridge over the intercoastal waterway, sirens screaming and Mars lights flashing. Exterior ocean, night. A U.S. Customs launch roars over calm seas, throwing big white bow waves as crewmen on its deck man a machine gun and a rotating spotlight. This light flares at us as they aim it through the dunes, casting eerie shadows. Exterior Graham Yard, night. A SWAT team, shotguns propped on their hips, has formed a defensive cordon around the yard as deputies emerge from the house, shepherding the frightened Molly and Josh. Other cops behind them carry their hastily packed suitcases. Molly and Josh are still in pajamas and robes. They looked more like prisoners than people who've just been rescued. Josh breaks away from the big cop who's holding his hand, runs back inside. Molly tugs free from her own guard, goes in pursuit of Josh as deputies come after them both. Interior Josh's room, night. The hand-carved silver lure rests in the wooden box amidst Josh's collection of treasures, seashells, glass floats, a dried starfish, odd bits of driftwood. The boy rushes over to this box, grabs it, shutting the lid. As he turns, clutching it to his chest, Molly is frozen in his doorway. He stares at her with tears of defiance. Heart-stricken, she looks back at her son. Interior Airport Terminal, Washington, day. Preceded by a pair of FBI agents and trailed by 2 others carrying their bags, Molly and Josh emerged from a jetway into a lounge. Josh is still clutching the lure box. Graham is waiting for them. His eyes meet Molly's. She stops. The bodyguard ease a secret distance away, eyes scanning the passing faces as Graham steps forward, a bit tentatively. She looks him up and down and then comes to him with a light kiss. Josh comes up beside his dad, a bit uncertainly. Graham drops to one knee to hug his son. From a distance, we watch as a stream of sun-reddened tourists returning from Florida parts around a little family. A few people look back curiously. Interior Lecter Cell Day, Baltimore. 3 big orderlies are methodically stripping Lecter's cell of books, drawings, mattress, clothes, everything that isn't bolted down, and dumping these into a laundry cart. Lecter, strapped on his hand truck but unmasked, is forced to watch from a corner. There's a curious grace about him, even in his restraints. At his desk, Chilton stares at some personal papers with his gold pen, smirks at the doctor, enjoying his humiliation.
Beneath the yellow folder, you'll find your latest rejection slip from the archives. It was brought to me by mistake with some of my archives mail, and I'm afraid I opened it without looking. Sorry.
Chilton reddens, staring at him, then snaps at an orderly.
I think we'll remove Dr. Lecter's toilet seat as well.
Exterior cottage, Chesapeake Bay, day. Aerial view of pleasant little whitewashed cottage bordered by woods with its rear yard sloping into the bay. 2 unmarked SUVs parked out front, golden light, almost dusk.
Is he after you now?
Exterior back porch, day. Graham and Molly sit on the glider. A silence.
I had reason to think so. Lecter just suggested it to him. I hate this, Molly. I'm sorry.
It's a sick feeling.
I know it is. But you'll be safe here. Crawford's brother owns the place. Nobody in the world knows you're here.
I just as soon not talk about Crawford.
She looks away. Josh is standing down by the water, where an agent is skipping stones with him. Graham follows her gaze.
How much does he know?
Plenty. His brother Tommy's mother had this trashy newspaper from the supermarket, and he saw it. It had a lot of stuff about you and Lecter, all pretty distorted. And that place you were afterwards. That part really upset him well.
God damn Freddie Lounds.
She looks at him, surprised by the cold fury in his voice. Interior guest bedroom, night. Graham is helping Josh unpack his duffel as the boy lines up a few salvaged treasures on his bureau. Something clatters to the floor and Josh picks it up hastily. A fish billy. He tucks the club under his pillow, looks at his dad.
Just in case.
Graham's eyes sting in the sight.
You're both safe now, Josh. Nobody knows you're here.
Why would he want me to be dead when he doesn't even know me?
Graham is immeasurably saddened. Takes a moment to answer.
He's sick in the head, sweetheart. He can't help himself.
Josh digests this silently for a moment.
Tommy's mother had this little newspaper. It said you were in a mental hospital too. I never knew that. Is it true?
Yes.
You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
No, I'm glad you asked. We should talk about it. What happened with me and Lecter, it bothered me a lot, Josh. Not just that he hurt me, that he fooled me so badly. I kept thinking there must have been some way I should have known sooner. Maybe I could have saved lives. And then I quit feeling anything. I couldn't eat, and I stopped talking to anybody. I got really depressed. So a doctor asked me to go to a special hospital, and I did. After a while, I got some distance on it, and finally I put it aside and came back to you and your mom. He's locked up forever, Josh. He's never going to hurt you or Mommy or me. Ever again.
Josh nods. He seems okay. Looks out at the water.
Chesapeake Bay, huh? Pretty cool. Think there's any fish out there?
Grandma's moved by his son's courage, scoops him up into his arms. Josh returns the hug gratefully.
Atlantis PD nailed him, Will. He had a fake voter ID and was trying to get a hold of the Leeds family autopsy photos.
Interior interrogation room, FBI building, day. Freddie Lounds, seen through the two-way mirror, slouches at a bare formica table, smoking nonchalantly. Graham and Crawford stare at him through the glass.
When they busted him, he tried an outright bribe to get extra for the children. It's federal beef, so Atlanta kicked him back to us. Personally, I'd like nothing better than to see this dirt sandwich going 5 at Leavenworth. And maybe there's a better way to play this.
Yeah?
Yeah. We want to give him a story.
Graham looked at Crawford, surprised. Exterior apartment building, Washington, day. An old brick apartment building in a mixed, partly commercial neighborhood. We focus on the third floor corner unit.
The Tooth Fairy is ugly and impotent with persons of the opposite sex.
Interior FBI safe house, Washington, day. Graham sits at a desk in a blandly furnished efficiency. He looks uncomfortable. Propped up beside him is a hideous, brutish artist's rendition of the killer. Lounds, notepad at the ready, interviews him, while a Tadler photograph records the event. Crawford watches laconically from the sidelines.
Also, he sexually assaults his male victims.
While they're alive?
Sorry, I can't go into details. We also speculate that he's the product of an incestuous home. I mean, no wonder the creep is such a loser, right?
He catches Crawford's eye. Crawford mouths Lecter.
That was one of the tips we got from Dr. Lecter, by the way.
So it's true that Lecter is actually helping you in your investigation.
Yes, he is. The doctor is offended that such a bottom-feeding lowlife as the Tooth Fairy will consider himself in the same league.
Crawford drifts behind the photographer, craning his neck to study what he's framing. Lounds catches this move.
So tell me about this place you've got here, Will. Your Washington hideaway?
It's just an apartment I'm borrowing until the ferry goes down in flames. I keep copies of all the evidence here so I can study it late at night.
The photographer nods, flashing away. Photo angles. Behind Graham, down in the corner of the window, a restaurant sign, Hong Fat Noodle Co., a street sign, 31st Street, Northwest, clearly indicate our location. Graham and the telltale signs are caught together, frame after frame.
And this is the only place I can find solitude and the
Carnival atmosphere of this investigation. How's that?
Crawford catches Graham's eye, nods. The photos look good.
It's great, Freddie. Just great.
Okay, I got enough.
He waves for his photographer to pack up, smirks at Crawford.
Just remember, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. If my story draws the ferry into some kind of attack on Graham and you nail the scumbag, I get an exclusive.
Fuck you, Lounds. When we see the story in print, then we'll consider quashing your sealed indictment. No further deals.
Yeah. Pleasure doing business with you chumps.
He breezes out, followed by his photographer. Graham rises, looking sourly at the artist's rendering, shakes his head.
You okay with this?
I feel like I need a shower.
I wish I had something better, but there's only 10 days till the next full moon. Let her out of this bastard's cage, so I'll ask you again. Are you okay with this?
Yeah, better he comes after me than keeps his mind on Molly and Josh. So yeah, Jack, I'm okay with it.
Crawford looks at him searchingly. Sound upcut, the scream of a jet on a landing approach. Exterior St. Louis Airport, night. A 737 swoops in low and disappears behind terminal buildings. It's late at night, not much activity. Super title, Lambert St. Louis International Airport.
We'll stake out this apartment and put snipers on the nearby rooftops.
Exterior airport newsstand night. At a sidewalk stand, bundled newspapers have been dumped into a pile. The Newsie, in his apron, is sorting and checking off his deliveries. His kiosk is still dark, shuttered.
Also, you'll have a moving box tail 24/7 in your car, on the street, wherever you go. But wear the Kevlar at all times, no exceptions.
Moving angle on a pair of black zippered boots as they approach the squatting Newsie, stopping behind him. The boots' owner stared down at the front page of the Tattler, quartered in twine. Tooth Fairy impotent. Top sleuth reveals his lurid secrets. Above a smiling photo of Lounds and Graham. Graham's arm is above the reporter's shoulder. Best of buddies. The silent, looming presence makes the Newsie uneasy.
What is it?
A Tattler.
You again. How many times I gotta tell you? You'll have to wait till I open. Come back at 4 a.m.
A switchblade blooms in Dolarhyde's hand, flashes down. The dealer stares alarmed as the twine on the bundle parts with a pop. A clean copy is plucked away at the center, spilling the rest. Then Dolarhyde is walking away. His silver dollar rings in the sidewalk. The Newsie rises, flushed.
Hey, you, I told you.
In 3 strides, Dolarhyde is back, right in his face.
You told me what?
You got a quarter coming back.
Dolarhyde turns disdainfully, strides away as the man's frightened gaze follow him. Interior underground garage day. Lounds, behind the wheel of his 280ZX, swoops down a ramp then through the vast underground parking garage of the Tattler. He's evidently clearly a lot The lot is almost empty.
Chicago's been given instructions.
Lounds screeches to a stop, staring in annoyance. A big black van is in his parking space. Lounds climbs out of his car, leaving it idling, and stalks over to the van. A shadowy figure can be seen inside.
He'll cover his apartment, his office, at the newspaper. Anywhere he's known to hang out.
Lounds bangs rudely on the van's window, then points at the painted words on the wall. Mr. Frederick Lounds. The van's dark window powers down with a soft whoosh.
Listen, dickhead.
A powerful left hand fires out and grabs the back of Lounds' neck, jerks his face forward into the soaked rag held by the right hand. He struggles for a few minutes, then goes limp. Exterior Tadler Building, day. The black van emerges from the garage, turns sedately right, passing a fat security guard, smoking under a paper's big front sign. As the van starts up the long, hilly block away from the building, a gray sedan is approaching from the other direction.
By Tuesday morning, when this issue becomes nationally available, we'll have all our people in place.
The sedan pauses as two fat guards crosses the sidewalk to greet its occupants. Two FBI agents in dark suits. One of them flashes ID. Impressed, the guard points helpfully toward the garage's entrance, and the sedan continues that way. Fade to interior Dolarhyde's house, ballroom, day. Lounds is semi-conscious but oddly upright. His eyes flutter, then open. He's disoriented, stares woozily. A dusty old ballroom, later a ward, swims to a view. Sheeted cots and bedpans. Tall, draped windows darken the room. Lounds tries to turn his head, cannot. Cries out softly as something tugs at his hair. His eyes strain downwards. He's wearing nothing but underpants. When he tries to lift his right arm, we see his skin stretch. From the soles of his bare feet to the back of his head, he's been glued into the old wooden armchair. He's frightened, his frightening panic, even before he hears soft footfalls approaching from behind.
Who's there? Where am I?
The footsteps stop. Ominous silence. Lounds become shrill.
What am I doing here?
Atoning, Mr. Lounds.
Lounds is confused, thinking fast, tries to steady his voice.
I haven't seen your face. I couldn't possibly identify you. The Tattler. I work for the National Tattler. Would pay a big reward for me. $500,000, $1 million maybe, $1 million.
Do you know who I am, Mr. Lounds?
No, and I don't want to know, believe me.
Well, according to you, I'm a vicious, perverted sexual failure, a bottom-feeding lowlife who's about to go down in flames. You know now, don't you?
Yes.
Why do you write lies, Mr. Lounds? Why do you say I'm crazy?
When a person does things that most people can't understand, they call him
crazy.
They called like the Wright brothers all through history.
History? Do you understand what I'm doing, Mr. Lounds?
No, but I want to, and then all my readers could understand too, but I have to tell you, man to man, that I'm scared. It's hard to concentrate when you're scared.
Man to man, man to man. You use that expression to imply frankness. I appreciate that, Mr. Lounds, but you see, I am not a man. I began as one, but by the grace of God and my own will, I am becoming other and more than a man, as you will witness.
The old chair creaks as it begins to turn.
No, I don't want to see you.
He squeezes his eyes shut as he slowly revolves.
Oh, but you must, Mr. Lounds. You're a reporter. You're here to report. Open your eyes and look at me. If you won't open them yourself, I'll staple your eyelids to your forehead.
Lounds opens his eyes very reluctantly and finds himself blinking into the glow of white radiance. Dolarhyde stands before him, starkly lit by a beam of a slide projector. He wears a stocking mask pulled up to his nose with his normal teeth inserted. Now he slowly turns his back on Lounds, dropping his kimono. His great back muscles flex, rippling the fantastic tattoo that reproduces Blake's monster. Wing roots flare over his ribs. The brilliant tail drops along one leg, curling about his calf. The dragon turns his head slowly, looks over his shoulder at Lounds, with his awful rickus of a smile.
Oh my dear God, Jesus.
Dolarhyde pulls the robe back on as he moves out of Lounds' view. A blank square of wall is left as a screen.
Do you want to know what I am?
More than anything, I was afraid to ask.
Dolarhyde raises a remote control, clicks it. Blake's red dragon fills the wall, beamed from a projector on a table near Lounds. Dolarhyde stands behind him.
Do you see now?
I see. Oh God.
Dolarhyde begins rapidly running through his other slides. Click. Mrs. Jacoby alive, evidently a newspaper photo.
Miss Jacoby, in human form, do you see?
Yes.
Click. Mrs. Leeds alive.
Mrs. Leeds, in human form, do you see?
Yes.
Close on Lounds' horrified gaze as more slides click, one after the other. He is near tears.
Mrs. Jacoby, changing, do you see?
Yes.
Mrs. Leeds, changing, do you see?
Oh my God.
Miss Jacoby, reborn, do you see? Mrs. Leeds, reborn, do you see?
Please, no.
No what?
Not me.
Why did you write lies, Mr. Lounds?
Graham told me to write the lies. Graham.
Will you tell the truth now about me, my work, my becoming, my art, Mr. Lounds? Is this art?
Art.
Dolarhyde comes closer, hovers over him, eyes flashing in cold fury through his mask slits.
I am the dragon, and you call me insane. My movements are followed and recorded as avidly as those of a mighty nebula. Before me, you are a slug in the sun. You are privy to a great becoming, and you recognize nothing. You are an ant in the afterbirth. It is in your nature to do one thing correctly. Before me, you rightly tremble.
A tape recorder sits beside the projector. Dolarhyde lifts its microphone, clips it onto the chair near Lounds' head.
But fear is not what you owe me, Mr. Lounds. You and the other Pismires.
He squats, bringing his terrifying masked face very close.
You owe me all.
Lounds is near fainting. Dolarhyde switches the recorder on, then looks at him again.
Now, repeat after me.
Exterior, Dolarhyde's house, night, sunset. The sky over the old house is now a purple bruise.
That's all, Mr. Lounds. You did very well.
Interior, Dolarhyde's house, ballroom, night. Close by Lounds, the tape recorder is still running. He looks drained, but more hopeful. He was always a good talker.
You'll let me go now?
Soon. There's one more way I can help you to better understand.
I want to understand. I do. And I'm really going to be fair from now on. You know that.
No response, except for an odd noise. We've heard it before. The moist, clackety sound of dentures being inserted.
Hello?
The old wheelchair is abruptly spun about, and Lounds finds himself staring into the exposed face of Dolarhyde, the brown-stained, crooked smile of the dragon, who now lunges forward, his fangs parting to rip off Lounds' lips. Exterior Tadler Building, Chicago, day. The fat security guard is out front again, and his sidewalk post munching a donut. It's very early, just after dawn, no traffic. He hears a strange squeaking noise from somewhere in the distance. He looks around, sees nothing, looks up the hilly block. It seems to be coming from over there, over the brow of the hill, echoing off the nearby buildings, getting louder. And now the squeaking is accompanied by a low whooshing roar and something worse, shrill, high-pitched screaming. The guard's head cocks in puzzlement. What the? A human fireball appears rolling down the middle of the street, bouncing on the potholes, trailing smoke and sparks and flames. Blown back like wings, it veers, strikes a parked car, overturns in front of the Tadler Building, one wheel spinning while flames leap through the spokes, enveloping the blackened figure of Freddie Lounds.
I have had a great privilege. I have seen with wonder and awe the strength of the great red dragon.
Interior Task Force Office, Washington, day. The spools of a cassette tape turn slowly. The player rests on a table next to a padded mailing envelope. The envelope, sealed in a clear evidence bag, is addressed to Will Graham, care of FBI Headquarters, Washington.
He has helped me to understand. his splendor, and now I want to serve him.
Crawford, his face dark, sits at the head of the table. Around it, Bowman, Katz, Price, Rankin, Willingham, and Baker.
He knows you made me lie, Will Graham, because I was forced to lie. He will be more merciful to me than to you, Will Graham.
No one wants to look at Graham. He sits a little apart from the others, staring at his hands on the table as if they belong to someone else.
There's much for you to dread, Will Graham. From my own lips, you'll learn a little more to dread.
Crawford reaches out, punches the stop button.
That's enough.
No. Let it play.
Crawford looks at him. Graham stares at the table. Crawford, expressionless, pushes fast forward. Then after a moment, punches play again.
To be fair, from now on, you know that. Hello?
Sound of the wheelchair creaking, then horrible, part-muffled screaming. After a few seconds, Price reaches out, turns it off. Even the old man, 40 years on the job, looks shaken. A long, awful silence. Finally, Crawford clears his throat.
This was my operation and it went to shit. I know that. So, we can brood over this, let it tie up the knots, or we can learn from it. Maybe even use it to catch the bastard.
A glance at Graham, still far away. The others shift uneasily.
He had to have a van or a panel truck to move Lounds around in that big old wheelchair.
Go on. Anybody?
He had to already have the wheelchair too, or know where he could get it fast. It's an antique, not the kind of thing you'd find around the house.
Exactly. Does it strike anybody that he set this up in a hell of a hurry?
They look at him. He rises, crosses to a wall map.
The Taylor comes off the press Monday night. By Tuesday morning, he's in Chicago, snatching Lounds. Either he lives in the Chicago area or he's within a driving radius of, call it 6 hours.
He draws a big circle in a red marker with Chicago at its center, looks at Rankin, Willingham, and Baker.
Find out within this area where the Taylor is available for early distribution Monday night. Start with the airports and all-night newsstands. Maybe some newsies remember an odd customer.
They nod, jotting notes. Crawford's energy, his ruthless determination, are lifting everyone's spirits a bit.
Lloyd, this cassette. Enhance audio. Maybe you can pick up something in the background. Beverly, Jimmy, that wheelchair. I want the maker, date, possible sources. Think about nursing homes, the VA. Also prints, fibers, and the type of gasoline he could use to flame it. Graham and I will coordinate from Chicago. You all know the drill. Let's hustle.
The others rise, with Bowman taking the evidence bag and tape player. Crawford and Graham are left alone. A beat.
You okay?
Sure. What the hell? My cover was on time.
Crawford waits. Graham shakes his head, frustrated, bitter.
This doesn't fit his pattern, Jack. Lounds was a bonus, chance to show off, but the Leeds and the Jacobys are what he needs. The answers won't be in Chicago. It might be in Baltimore.
After what he tried to pull? Will, you can't trust one word out of his fucking mouth.
I think Lecter picked up something in that missing part of the note. Not a name, but something, enough to narrow the search.
Even if he did, he won't tell you.
Not unless I can deal. I don't have the chops for that. I have to be able to cut through Chilton's bullshit.
Crawford looks at him unhappily. A long beat.
Congratulations, Will.
Interior, Lecter's cell and corridor. Day. Lecter smiles up to the plastic barrier. He's sitting on the floor, his back to the wall of his denuded cell.
That was most artistic, the way you disposed of the annoying Mr. Lounds. What a cunning boy you are.
Graham sits on the corridor floor, close to the barrier.
Your cell looks bigger with no books in it.
Does it? I hadn't noticed.
You will.
I have other resources. Tell me, did you enjoy it? Your first murder? Of course. And why shouldn't it feel good? It must to God. He dropped the church roof on 34 of his worshipers in Texas last week, just as they were groveling through him. He won't begrudge you one journalist.
Put me next to him, Doctor. The Red Dragon, you have the power to do that.
You and some SWAT team? Will, where's the fun in that?
He'll have to take his chances too. Roofs can fall on anybody.
Well, not on Molly and Josh, I take it. Not yet, anyway. First he kills the pet, then the family. Freddie was your pet.
Graham's voice tightens, an enormous effort to control.
They're safe now.
Here, boy, don't you know yet? No one will ever be safe around you. Clever work on his note, by the way. That blackout was an especially nice touch.
What else was in it, Doctor?
This and that.
Look, put me next to him. That's what you've always wanted, isn't it? Give him the chance to succeed where you failed. Not once, but twice. Chance to kill me.
Something moves behind the pale eyes, like sparks in a cave.
Go on, then. Seduce me with your wares.
Full restoration of your privileges. Plus computer access to the AMA archives and the Library of Congress. 1 hour per week. Under supervision, of course. Look, it's a one-time offer. It expires the minute I walk out of here.
Bit measly, don't you think?
Look, turn it down then. See what kind of terms you get from Chilton.
Threats, Will?
Choices. You owe the dragon nothing. He failed to do what you wanted. I'm waiting, Doctor. Maybe you've got nothing left to sell.
Well, sample then. Why not? Seen the Blake, have you?
Yeah.
No. You've looked, but not seen. Transformation is the key. The man-dragon, his ugliness transformed by power. He'll be a bodybuilder, of course. Look for a military record with combat training. Look for extensive tattooing and VA-sponsored corrective surgery, most likely to the face. And the woman, recumbent, clothed in flames. Look for childhood episodes of arson. He's a great believer, our dragon, in the transforming powers of fire. Just ask Freddie.
That's thrift shop material. I want the real goods. I'm past all that. How is he choosing the women?
I've already suggested how. The answer was right in front of you. You looked but didn't see.
Doctor, just tell me.
No, it's your turn. I asked you before for a small courtesy and you responded rudely. Before I tell you anything more, you will make certain arrangements for me.
What arrangements?
Oh, nothing much. Shall we say dinner and a show?
Interior Dolarhyde's van, driving, day. Reba sits next to Dolarhyde as he drives. His fingers tap playfully on the steering wheel. He's still high from Freddie.
Ready to tell me what kind of outing this is?
Nope.
You're just full of surprises, aren't you, Dee?
Yep.
She hears a smile in his voice. She's happy too. Interior Zoo, infirmary, day. Dr. Warfield, a middle-aged black veterinarian, guides Reba across a tiled floor by the elbow. Dolarhyde is behind them.
He's 6 feet away. Can you smell him?
Yes.
He's not asleep, I assure you. Dr. Hassler is about to fix his broken tooth.
Dr. Hassler, in a lab coat and a head mirror, turns away from his patient, smile at Reba.
Glad you could come, Miss McClane. We appreciate the film, by the way. 2 steps. I'll put your left hand on the edge of the table. There. He's right in front of you. Take your time.
She's excited, nervous, turns her face, searching.
Dee?
I'm here. You go ahead.
Gripping the edge of a steel work table with her left hand, she reaches out slowly with her right till it encounters a thick coat of fur. She flattens her hand, then moves it gently, tentatively at first, across an orange and black striped pelt. She feels the awesome muscles beneath, the great ribs rising and falling. Reba's face makes a quick, jerky movements, blindisms that she has spent years schooling herself against. Warfield and Hassler see her forget herself and are glad. She moves on, circling the table. Under hot lights, a drugged, sleeping Bengal tiger lies on his right side, 10 feet long, 815 pounds. Reba looks tiny beside him, so vulnerable. Her hand trails down the tail, then over the furry testicles. Briefly, she cups them, then moves on. Dolarhyde, watching from the shadows, is tense with his own excitement. A bead of sweat trickles down his face. Warfield lifts a great paw and puts it on her hands. She feels the roughness of the pads. When he presses a toe to make the claw slide out, she gently tests its sharpness. The tiger's eyes are open. His tongue lolls wetly from his mouth, where we see a broken fang. Reba feels his ears, the width of his head, and then, very carefully, touches one of the incisors. Hot breath stirs the sleeve of her blouse. She's flushed, elated. Dr. Warfield puts a stethoscope in her ears, then guides her fingers downward to the diaphragm. Dolarhyde stares, transfixed, aroused by the great beast, the woman's living proximity to such power. He hands her her hands on the rhythmic chest, her shining, joyful face upturned. Reba is filled with the tiger's heart, bright thunder. Interior Dolarhyde's house, front hall, day. which now crossfades into loud ticking of a clock as Reba's cane, exploring, taps along the hall. It passes the base of the tall clock, finds the edge of the ballroom's archway, and then the open air beyond. She mutters to herself.
9 steps from the front door to the clock. 3 more to this room.
She pauses, turning her face back towards Dolarhyde.
Sorry, force of habit.
He looks at her from inside the front door, astounded at himself that he's just let her come in here. The clock echoes a bit.
It feels cool and tall. It's a big house, isn't it? How many rooms?
14.
She brushes against a fringed lampshade and touches it with her fingers.
It's old. The things in here are old.
He glances up uneasily at grandmother's portrait.
Old people were here.
Not now, though.
No.
Sound upcut. Vic's Biedereich's rockin' chair echoing slightly as it's played on Interior Ballroom Day, a wind-up gramophone. To one side of the vast dark room, outside the tall windows, the light is falling, almost dark. Reba, in a big chair, sips beer from a bottle, listening to the old-timey jazz. Dolarhyde sits on a couch nearby, uneasily upright, facing the TV. His palms rub sweat on his thighs.
The beautiful tiger. This house. This music. I don't think anybody knows you at all, Dee. Everybody wonders about you, though.
He looks at her, his predator's eyes suddenly wary.
Oh.
Oh, you know, the whole gang down at Chromalex. Especially the women.
Which women?
Some of them saw us getting into your van the other day. Boy, were they curious. All of a sudden, I have company at the Coke machine.
What did they want to know?
She catches the edge in his voice. It puzzles her.
They find you very mysterious and interesting. Come on, Dee, it's a compliment.
He looks away. His reflection stares back at him from the blank TV screen. This disturbs him.
Did they tell you how I look?
I didn't ask them, but yeah, they told me anyway. Want to hear?
His face darkens. He's dangerously silent. She senses it.
They say you have a remarkable body, that you're very sensitive about your face and that you shouldn't be, that you're different from most guys. You're never a bullshitter, but I already knew that. Oh, and they asked me if you're as strong as you look.
And?
Music has stopped. The needle scratches. A tense pause.
I said I didn't know.
He rises uncertainly, starts toward the record player. She drains her bottle, then rises too.
Where the hell are you, Dee?
She steps forward, brushing against him. He freezes, alarmed.
Here you are. Want to know what I think about it?
She finds his mouth with her fingers and kisses him, quickly, lightly, before he can stop her, then pulls away as he stares at her, astounded.
Now would you show me where the bathroom is?
Interior bathroom, day. As the toilet flushes, Reba turns away from the sink, locates a towel, then she pats her hair, primping a bit. She can't see that the medicine cabinet's mirror has been removed. As she feels her way out of the bathroom, her hip presses a small cupboard. On top of this, grandmother's teeth wait in their squat glass, blackened by freshly dried blood. Interior ballroom, day. As Reba navigates back into the room, the Biederbeck is playing again. Dolarhyde kneels by the TV, feeding a tape into the VCR. He rises, holding the remote, crosses to Reba, lets her take his arm. His voice sounds thick, almost frightened.
I have to do a little work.
Sure. If I'm keeping you from working, I'll go. Will a cab come out here?
No. I want you to be here. I do. It's just a tape I need to watch. It won't take long.
He's steering her towards the big chair. Instead, she releases his arm, goes to the couch, sits. This unsettles him a bit.
Do you need to hear it too?
No.
May I keep the music?
Mm-hmm.
He sits on the he sits on the other end of the couch, looks at her warily, then switches on the VCR remote. He mutes the TV sound as the biter box continues to play. On the TV, a home video. Kids in a big hedged backyard having a water battle, pistols and a hose, circling and laughing. 2 boys and a younger girl. This family, the Shermans, is new to us. Behind them, a large, handsome house. A dog runs about, barking silently. Camera moves shakily to catch Mrs. Sherman as she comes outside through the porch's screen door, carrying soda towards the picnic table. Camera zooms in on her, a beautiful woman in cutoff shorts and a skimpy halter top. Reba slides closer to Dolarhyde on the couch. Their thighs brush together. He tenses. She smiles, snuggling closer.
What's it about?
In the video, the kids are ambushing their mom, squirting her as she ducks and dodges, laughing silently. She drops her sodas, grabs the hose from her son, turning it on him. Her heavy breaths sway beneath the wet halter.
Some people I'm going to meet.
Reba leans her soft weight against Dolarhyde's shoulder. He glances at her uncertainly, then back at the screen.
So then, it's what, a corporate promo? Some kind of homework?
Homework. Yeah.
In the video, another day, Dad on the rec room sofa with a beer, looking a bit drunk. Rain outside the transom window. Camera pans to Mom and the 2 younger kids rummaging through an old trunk. Dress up fun in front of the tall mirror. Boas, big shoes, a cowboy hat. The oldest boy must now be the cameraman. Reba stretches up to nuzzle Dolarhyde's cheek, the side of his neck, whispers into his ear.
Good idea. It's so important to be prepared.
Her hand is moving down below. She smiles wickedly.
My goodness, are you ever?
He's tense, incredibly aroused, sits very still, forcing all his attention on the screen as slowly, lingeringly, Reba's lips brush down his chest, then his abdomen, until her head moves out of frame. In the video, Mrs. Sherman in a big garden party hat admires herself in the mirror, turns, striking a pose for the camera, her hand at the back of her neck. There's a cameo at her throat. Dolarhyde freeze frames this moment. Staring at the TV, Dolarhyde trembles, sweat trickles down his temple, his jaw tenses, his neck arches back. On the arm of the couch, his clenched fingertips pop through the upholstery. Angle on Mrs. Sherman's beautiful, frozen face as the scratchy, swaggering jazz continues and we move closer and closer on her radiant, doomed smile. Fade 2. Interior ballroom day. Dolarhyde wakes up, puzzled for an instant because he's not in his garret bed. His eyes widen as he remembers. He smiles shyly, turns his head to the pillow beside him. No Reba. He sits up, naked under the twisted sheets of one of the wardroom cots. Her clothes are strewn across the floor, but she's not in the ballroom. His smile fades. Interior front hall day. In his rising panic, wearing only underpants, Dolarhyde rushes out into the hall, looks up and down it. No Reba.
Francis!
He turns with a start, looking at the old woman in the portrait.
What have you done?
He backs away from her, frightened, and then has a terrible thought. He turns, racing toward the stairs. Interior staircase day. Dolarhyde pounds the steps, whimpering a little as he flings himself around and turns.
I've never seen a child as dirty and disgusting as you.
Interior garret room day. He steps into the doorway, panting a bit. She's not up here either. His frightened face stares back at him from the workout mirrors. He rushes across the garret to his shrine, yanks open the desktop. His great ledger, camera equipment, dynamite, shotgun, and Glock are all neatly arranged, undisturbed. He backs away from the desk, wild-eyed, confused.
Do you want me to cut it off?
No, no.
With a sudden roar, his voice becomes male.
Do you?
Dolarhyde looks up, wailing at the dragon in the poster.
No!
Covering his ears against the awful sound, he spins away toward the window. Then he spots Reba through the panes. She's down in the yard, wandering about, wearing his kimono.
She's a filthy little whore and you're no better. No! It's nice! It's nice. You want her to be your little buddy, don't you? You want her to be friends. No, please! Liar! No, just a little while. You sniveling hair lip. Who would be friends with you? Kill her! No!
Exterior Dolarhyde's yard, day. Reba turns around, trailing her hands in the shrubs and overgrown wildflowers, enjoying the grass under her bare feet, the sun's warmth on her smiling, upturned face.
She will betray you. Kill her. No, let me. She will stop the becoming. Kill her. No, please. She is mine.
Interior garret room, day. Dolarhyde stares at Reba, the dragon roaring in his head.
They're all mine. Leeds, Jacoby, now this little whore. Take your gun and kill her. No, he's nice.
Dolarhyde lurches in the dark, grabs the sawed-off shotgun, sticks a muzzle into his own mouth.
Go ahead, then do it. Do it.
He squeezes his eyes shut, his finger tightens on the trigger.
Weakling, coward, you would stop the becoming now when we're so close.
Dolarhyde hesitates, trembling violently. The dragon's voice softens a bit, cunningly.
No one will ever love you, Francis, except for me, only me. Never forget that.
Dolarhyde lowers the shotgun, trembling. His face is drenched in sweat. Still terrified, he finds himself staring at the printed words across the bottom of the poster. Brooklyn Museum of Art. Interior Dolarhyde's van, day. Dolarhyde pulls up in front of Reba's duplex. His frenzy has passed, but he's still tense, darkly brooding. Reba sits beside him in a hurt, puzzled silence. Finally, she breaks it.
I had a really terrific time last night, Dee. But this morning you seem like a different person. I don't understand. Is something wrong?
He turns, looks at her. The dragon whispers in his head.
Kill her. No!
She's stung. With an effort, he controls his voice.
I have to go now. I have to go away.
Where?
On a trip.
When will I see you again?
Don't know.
He looks at her yearningly as fear strains his voice.
Reba, you have to get out. Get out. Now.
Her jaw clenches. Angrily, she opens her door, climbs out with her cane. As he drives away quickly, she stands on the sidewalk, her face turned after him, tears in her eyes.
Mr. Graham.
Interior FBI building, conference room, day. Resting on a long table are 4 big FedEx cartons, already opened. Some of the unpacked contents are spread out. Letters, photo albums, date books, kids' school notebooks. We catch a glimpse of a silver-framed photo, the Jacoby family.
Jared Jacoby's personal effects are discussed.
Graham, hunched over the table, searches obsessively through the last carton. Something near the bottom catches his eye. His expression changes.
Hope these things might help you. Good hunting. Byron Metcalf.
He lifts out of the carton a plastic Ziploc bag, holds this up, staring at the loose VHS-C tapes inside of it. Sound upcut. Bach's keyboard concerto in F minor. He continues under the following. Interior Lecter's cell, Baltimore, day. Lecter carefully caresses some pear sauce into a silver of foie gras, then lifts it from its plate with a silver fork. Makes it hesitate by his lips, an exquisite self-torment before his tongue emerges pinkly to savor it. Wider angle reveals that his cell has been fully restored, and far more than that, at least temporarily. The doctor is dining calmly at his table, which is now covered by fine cloth and exquisitely set with bone china, a glass of wine, and even a vase of fresh-cut roses. Exterior Eastern Parkway, New York City, day. Dolarhyde gets out of a taxi, then leans down, pays the cabbie who drives away, leaving him on the sidewalk. Joggers pass him, dog walkers. He has a knapsack over one shoulder. He turns, staring up at a massive Greek revival building with botanical gardens. Super title, Brooklyn Museum of Art, New York City.
Well, how many more times are we going to watch this?
Interior FBI building, conference room, day. A TV set and a VCR on a rolling stand have been pushed into the room. A videotape plays with its sound muted. In the tape, 9-year-old Donald Jacoby blows on the candles on a birthday cake, and his sister Lisa and May watch. Mrs. Jacoby leans over, her dark hair swinging, to scoop the family's cat off the table. A time date stamp reads April 14.
I've had reports from Cincinnati, Detroit, a bunch from Chicago. U stands for the dragon could have gotten to Tyler so fast. We got a lot of weirdos to run down.
Crawford has joined Graham as the two of them sit watching the tape. Graham grips the remote control, very intense, utterly focused on the TV screen. Crawford is impatient.
Well, what I'm saying is there's a better way to use our time.
I see them living, he said, right in front of you. Look, but didn't see. Jack, there's something with these home movies. Lecter keeps saying that, just not directly.
Lecter says a lot of things.
On the TV, the scene abruptly shifts. Now the whole family is outside. Mom has the camera, the outside basement door swings open, and Mr. Jacoby comes up the steps carrying a new 10-speed bicycle. Festooned with balloons and ribbons, he sets it ceremoniously on the ground as Donald rushes over gleefully, hugging his dad, then wriggling the handlebars experimentally.
Sad damn thing, but Rennie knew that. Well, we can't afford.
No. Again.
Stubbornly, he stabs the remote, rewinding. Crawford sighs.
Your dissertation must nearly be finished by now, Mr. Crane.
Interior corridor, Book and Museum of Art, day. Dolarhyde walks down a corridor past massive American oils. He's carrying a notebook, a hardback biography of William Blake, and has a special pass clipped to his shirt. No sign of his knapsack. He's accompanied by a docent, Ms. Harper, a sensible-looking woman, severely pretty.
Nearly.
It's so nice to finally be able to connect with a name after all of our correspondence. But you don't look at all like I imagined you would.
What did you think I'd look like?
Something in his piercing gaze unsettles her, just a bit.
Older.
Interior Lecter's cell and corridor, day. Outside Lecter's cell are a pair of caterers in chef's starched whites with stainless steel food carts. They're both very nervous. One of them warms veal on a chafing dish, while the other cautiously lowers the soup course into Lecter's pass-through. The Bach is playing from a portable stereo on a rolling cart nearby. This also holds a TV set and a VCR. The doctor, as he rises to take the covered bowl, comes face to face for a moment with the frightened chef. Nods to him politely. Thank you.
There, right there.
Interior FBI building, conference room, day. On the TV screen, Jacoby again brings up the bicycle up the steps of the basement stairwell. The door swings closed behind him. A padlock hangs from it. Graham freezes this frame, then rises, crossing to a point on the screen.
That's what he wanted the bolt cutter for, Jack. To cut the padlock and go into the basement.
Crawford looks over his glasses at the screen. He's got the Jacoby and Leeds case file spread open in front of him.
That's door. I don't get it. The one I saw was flush steel with deadbolts.
Jacoby had a new door installed sometime in April, the 24th, I think. It's in here somewhere.
Graham looks at him. Crawford's expression changes.
You think he cased the Jacoby house while the old door with the padlock was still there?
He brought the bolt cutter, didn't he? He was sure he'd need it.
My God. It's 2 months before the Jacobys were hit. Why would he case it 2 months in advance and did not check it again?
I don't know, but he was ready with the bolt cutter. Just like at the Leeds house. Only there he was ready with the glass cutter.
You must have seen the pane of glass in the Leeds' kitchen door when he was walking through that neighborhood.
Graham's mind races. Something is teasingly out of reach.
No, wait.
In flashback, Graham stands in the Leeds' backyard in the moonlight, looking toward the lattice back porch. The kitchen door can't be seen from here.
You can't see that door from the yard. There's a porch lattice in the way.
Back to the present. They stare at each other as it hits them both at once.
Jack, you saw the insides of the houses.
Interior Brooklyn Museum, painting study and storage, day. Dolarhyde stands at the counter-height work table as Miss Harper reverently opens a flat black case in front of him.
Remarkable, isn't it?
They are alone except for a single elderly guard drowsing on a corner stool. Dolarhyde is tense, almost trembling. They both look down at the case's contents.
200 years old, and yet so fresh, so vivid.
The original Blake watercolor rests on black cloth, the red dragon and the woman clothed with the sun. Small but powerful, stunning in its color and detail, like a glowing jewel. Dolarhyde leans closer, transfixed. Ms. Harper glances at him, pleased by his passion, then back at the painting.
He almost looks alive, doesn't he?
Interior Lecter's cell, day. With intense pleasure, Lecter takes a sip of blood-red wine. He glances up over the rim of his crystal goblet. A security camera high in the corner. Its light is on. The doctor raises his glass in a silent toast. Interior Security Stronghold, day. On a monitor in the security stronghold, Chilton watches as Lecter smilingly mocks him. He turns away, furious, and storms out as the guards try to stifle their smiles. The box soars louder and louder, mixing now with Interior Brooklyn Museum, painting study and storage, day. The spectral roar of the dragon inside Dolarhyde's head as he stares sweaty and trembling at the Blake watercolor.
Filthy little beast, what have you done?
Dolarhyde's hand slips inside his shirt.
She will betray you.
Ms. Harper's whole attention is on the painting.
Do you want me to cut it off? Cut it off! Cut it off!
Dolarhyde pulls out a blackjack, slugs Miss Harper over her ear. As she goes limp, he catches her in his arms, eases her to the floor, then snatches up the watercolor, stuffs it into his mouth, chewing hard. The guard is frozen in astonishment. As Dolarhyde turns, stares at him, still chewing, then swallows. When the old man rises, fumbling for his walkie-talkie, Dolarhyde races out past him, shoving him hard. The guard topples over his stool, sprawling on the floor. Interior Brooklyn Museum corridor, day. Dolarhyde runs down a corridor, past scattering alarmed tourists. He is exhilarated, joyous, and vulnerable. Somewhere alarms are ringing. Exterior Botanical Gardens, day. Panting, he glances around quickly to make sure no one's in sight. Then he kneels, drags his knapsack out from under a hedge, begins peeling off his shirt. Exterior Eastern Parkway, day. Dolarhyde, now in a Brooklyn College t-shirt, gray shorts and sneakers, runs out of the gardens with his knapsack slung over his shoulder. He soon blends in with the stream of other joggers, skaters, and bikers, all merging into Prospect Park as the first police cars race by, sirens wailing.
Mr. Metcalf, do you still have the Jacoby's check stubs and the credit card statements?
Interior FBI building, conference room, day. Crawford is on the phone over in the corner of the room while Graham continues to stare at the TV screen. The Leeds videotape is now playing.
We're looking for any kind of service call or purchase that might have required a stranger to come into the house. A repairman, a delivery guy.
On the TV, the Leeds' gray Scotty perks his ears up, runs to the kitchen door. Valerie Leeds and the children come in carrying groceries. Through the kitchen door, nothing but lattice is visible.
Yeah, I know where you checked that, but now we've got to go back so much further, all the way to April. Yeah, but please hurry, it's urgent.
Graham is muttering obsessively to himself.
No collar. No collar.
Metcalf says,
Don't talk to me.
Crawford isn't offended. Senses Graham must be very close to some breakthrough. He's rocking silently his feet.
Dog had no collar in a neighborhood full of dogs, but he knew which one was theirs. Same with the Jacoby's cat. No collar, but he knew.
Graham reverses the tape for a few seconds, starts it forward again. The Scotty runs to the kitchen. Mrs. Leeds and the children enter. The door is behind them.
He knew about the padlock. Knew about the painted glass. Knew the layouts. Knew how to get in. Every goddamn thing he needed to know was right in.
He picks up the plastic container that has the videotape. Follow my leads. The family mocked up as Hollywood stars.
Jesus.
Clamps his hands on the side of his head to keep the thought from getting away. Crawford stares at him.
You still have Metcalf on the phone.
Crawford holds out the receiver. Graham rises, grabs it.
Byron, it's Graham. You said Niles Jacoby took a few keepsakes. Do you have of a list? I need to know if one of the things he took was a home video, a full-length VHS tape compiled from shorter tapes. Yes, meet the Jacobys.
As Crawford follows Graham's thoughts, picking up on his excitement, his eyes grow narrow and bright.
Listen, they're credit card statements. Look at May or June. Who did they pay for that tape? Where was it made?
Crawford picks up the plastic container. Follow my leads. Turns it over and reads the manufacturer's label on the back. Chroma Lux Inc., Film and Videotape Services, St. Louis, 63102. Graham looks up from the receiver, stares at Crawford like a man who's seen a ghost. His voice is hushed, awed.
It's Chroma Lux.
Interior Lecter cell day. Lecter in his cell is like a spider in the center of his web, keen to every distant vibration. Now he watches as, on the TV screen in his corridor, Valerie Leeds leans over, shakes out her tousled hair, then straightens, striking her mock glamorous pose. That touching, oddly intimate moment that so fatally caught Dolarhyde's eye. Lecter takes tiny, delicious sips of her doom, sweeter than any saturine. His eyes close slowly in ecstasy. Exterior FBI Learjet flying day. A small jet races west toward the setting sun.
We've got a problem.
Interior FBI Learjet flying day. Crawford, looking worried, comes down the jet's aisles, drops into a seat next to Graham, shows him a fax.
Any incident at the Brooklyn Museum? Guy attacked 2 employees and get this, 8 the Blake painting.
Graham looks at him startled and takes the sheet.
It was the Dragon Wheel. Gotta be. It was in New York today. Could still reroute.
Nope. He lives in St. Louis. He's got to come back there. I say we keep going.
A long, uncertain beat. Then Crawford nods. He takes back the fax, looks at it, shakes his head.
I don't get it. That picture meant so much to him. Why destroy it? Why didn't you kill those 2 people at the museum? We both got a good look at it.
Maybe he's trying to stop.
Crawford is surprised, ponders this. Exterior Chromolux night. In the parking lot of the factory complex under sodium lights, Dolarhyde pays a taxi driver who then departs. He is changed back into everyday clothes and still carries his knapsack. Freed of the dragon, he looks happier, more relaxed than we've ever seen him. He starts across the lot toward the parked van, almost light-footed, then stops. The buildings are mostly dark, the parking lot almost empty. There is no night shift, and yet 5 or 6 cars are clustered near the loading dock by the delivery vans. A woman, a secretary, gets out of her car, hurries inside, summoned here hastily, her hair in curlers under a scarf. Dolarhyde hesitates, sensing some disturbance, some unknown danger. Cautiously, he follows the woman into the building. Interior Chromolux, 2nd floor corridor, night. Dolarhyde edges around the stairwell corner, looking down. A long corridor, lights on in one of the offices, behind a frosted glass door that reads Personnel Department. Inside this room, shadowy figures, indistinct voices. As he's puzzling over this, another noise nearby, rapidly approaching footsteps, makes him pull back out of sight. The secretary from the parking lot comes by him in a hurry, carrying a heavy armload of ledgers. She reaches the door of the personnel department, pecks on it with her toe. Will Graham opens the door for her. Dolarhyde freezes, stunned. The woman goes in, the door closes behind her. Dolarhyde backs away, then turns, his running shoes quiet as he rushes back down towards the exit. Exterior Chromolux, loading dock, night. As he pauses in the shadows of the loading dock, Dolarhyde's heart is racing, his mind whirls. How the hell? He shakes his head, forcing concentration, scans the parking lot till his eyes catch movement. There? A man with a clipboard is walking slowly from parked car to parked car, jotting down the plate numbers. Dolarhyde's eyes dart in another direction. A second man is standing by one of the delivery vans. He has a flashlight, flicking something. He's dusting the outside mirror for fingerprints. Dolarhyde turns, staring. His own black van is some distance away, in a dark corner of the lot. Apparently, they haven't reached it yet. He takes a deep breath, eyes the men again, waiting till their backs are turned. Then he drops flat, rolls over the edge of the loading dock, and lopes silently away in a semi-crouch toward his van. Interior, Dolarhyde's van, night. Dolarhyde leaps into the driver's seat, shuts the door, yanks his valise from under his seat, closet open, pulls out his Glock, jacks around in the chamber. He's panting, almost frantic, looks out of the window. No one is coming. He forces himself to take deep breaths. Then he lays his pistol on the console, covers it with his t-shirt. He starts his engine, drives slowly and quietly away.
We want to find him, not spook him. That's why we haven't called out the cavalry yet.
Interior Chromolux, personnel office, night. The personnel manager, Mr. Fisk, looks worriedly at Crawford.
If we can ID this guy tonight, we can take him outside the plant, maybe at his house, or tomorrow morning in the lot.
Mr. Crawford, all you've got is a hunch, but we've got 382 employees, and they have a union. I don't see how I can just turn the FBI loose on their files, not without a court order.
His secretary, at her desk, is grimly guarding the pile of ledgers and timesheets. Graham hovers nearby, frustrated.
There are privacy issues here. The company's exposure.
One of those employees may have already killed 11 people. Mr. Fisk, that we know of. If you let him get away tonight, what's the company's exposure on that?
Fisk looks back at him unhappily.
Thanks for dinner, Ralph, and thanks for letting me vent.
Exterior Reba's duplex, front steps, night. Reba's standing outside her front door saying goodnight to Ralph Mandy. His motorcycle is parked on the curb.
Hey, no problemo. Reba, listen, it's not my place to say this.
Go on.
Dolarhyde's really as moody as you say. Maybe you ought to keep a little distance. I mean, what do you really know about the guy? What do any of us know?
I appreciate your concern, Ralph, really, and I promise I'll give it some thought. Hey, have a great vacation.
Good night, Reba. See you in a couple weeks.
Impulsively, he leans forward, gives her a quick kiss on the cheek. Reba accepts this. Interior Dolarhyde's van, night. Point of view angle through the windshield as they separate. Reba smiles. She turns, unlocks her door as Ralph stands by. Dolarhyde stares at the two of them from his parked van, his eyes turning hard. A grim new resolve is flooding into him. The dragon coming back to life whispers into his head.
She has betrayed you.
Exterior Reba's duplex, front steps, night. Ralph waits gallantly while Reba closes her door, locks and bolts it from the inside. Then he turns, starting down toward his bike, and Dolarhyde is blocking his way.
Mr. D, what are you...
Dolarhyde shoots him in the face, two quick little foofs from his silenced Glock. Ralph's body tumbles behind the shrubbery. Then Dolarhyde turns, calmly rings the doorbell. He waits. After a moment, sounds of the door being unlocked again. Reba opens it, annoyed.
Ralph, just because I'm feeling a little vulnerable.
Dolarhyde claps the chloroformed cloth over her face, struggles briefly, trying to cry out, then goes limp. He catches her body as it sags.
Look, forget the files.
Interior personnel office, night. Fisk looks tensely at Graham, and he breaks off the stand-up.
Look, the man we're looking for is very strong, a bodybuilder. He's right-handed, has short blonde hair. He drives a van or a panel truck, and he missed work today. He called in sick or left early.
Fisk and his secretary exchanged a worried glance.
Well, that sounds like Mr. Dolarhyde.
Who was Mr. Dolarhyde?
Our manager of technical services. He maintains the equipment we use for tape transfers. All our home videos go through his hands.
Graham and Crawford exchange a glance. Got him.
Where does he live?
Interior Dolarhyde's ballroom, night. A dripping towel rubs across Reba's unconscious face, which stirs, then shakes from side to side to escape the wetness.
Reba, wake up.
Her eyes flutter open. She's slumped on the couch, dazed, disoriented. Dolarhyde sits beside her, very distraught.
You wandered around in the house while I was asleep, didn't you?
What?
Last night or this morning, you went through the house, didn't you? Did you find something odd? Did you take it and show it to somebody? Did you do that, Reba?
D, what is it? What's happening?
Abruptly, she struggles to rise, but his big hands on her shoulders push her back. He hisses.
Shh. Sit still, or he'll hear us.
Who will?
He's right upstairs. I thought he was gone, but now he's back.
D, you're scaring me.
His palm covers her rising shriek.
Shh.
Exterior State Road 370, night. A caravan of cars and vans streams across Missouri River Bridge, speeding west as quickly but silently as possible. St. Louis PD, St. Louis SWAT, FBI. Mars lights flashing to clear traffic, but no sirens. Once across the bridge, the caravan swings to the right of North River Road.
Reba, some remarkable events have happened in Birmingham and Atlanta.
Interior Dolarhyde's house, ballroom, night. Dolarhyde still grips her mouth. He leans closer to her, his eyes blazing, their faces almost touching.
It's been on the news a lot. 2 groups of people were changed, Leeds and Jacoby. The police think they were murdered. Do you know how?
She starts to shake her head again. Then she does know. Slowly she nods. He uncovers her mouth.
Do you know what they call the being that visited those people? You can say.
The tooth.
He grips her face again, shutting off the sound.
Think carefully and answer correctly.
It's dragon something. Dragon. Red Dragon.
He's right upstairs. He wants you, Reba. He always has. I didn't want to give you to him. He did a thing for you today, so he couldn't have you. I was wrong, Reba. You made me weak, and then you hurt me. Now it's all over for me.
Interior, lead car, police caravan, driving, night. In the lead car, 2 deputies are in the front seat, one driving and one consulting a map. The radio crackles with low, urgent voices coordinating the racing task force. In the back seat, Graham is checking the load on his 44 Special. He looks at his fingers, discovers they are remarkably steady. He glances beside him at Crawford, who is caught this moment. Their eyes meet briefly, then Crawford nods. You'll be okay. You're all on the way back. Interior, Dolarhyde's house, ballroom, night. A row of gasoline cans, their caps already removed. One by one, Dolarhyde's sneakers, kicking them over as the liquid spills out, spreading over the floorboards.
She's mine.
Dolarhyde pauses, sharply at his ceiling.
No! Give her to me now! No, you can't have her!
He picks up a can, frantically splashing the cots, the drapes. Reba's head turns sharply, reacting to the smell.
Please, Dee. Please don't let him have me. You won't. Please don't. I'm for you. You like me. I know you do. Take me with you.
Take you with me. Yes.
Suddenly, he's beside her again, holding his shotgun.
Put out your hand. Feel this. Don't grab it. Feel it.
She touches the muzzle.
That's a shotgun, Reba. A 12-gauge Magnum. Do you know what it will do?
She nods, tears streaming down her cheeks.
Take your hand down.
The cold muzzle now rests in the hollow of her throat.
Reba, I wish I could have trusted you. I wanted to trust you. It felt so good.
So did you, Dee. I love it. Please, don't hurt me now.
He sobs helplessly, great spasms racking his body.
It's all over for me. I can't leave you to him. Do you know what he'll do? He'll bite you to death. He'll hurt you so bad. I can't let that happen. I can't. Better if you go with me.
He's up again, lurching away from her, still gripping the shotgun as he fumbles with a pack of matches. He strikes one, tosses it, and it lands with a whoosh and flames rise instantly. Thick black smoke begins to fill the air. Reba, terrified, gets to her feet.
Dee! Where are you?
Dolarhyde sways in front of her, backlit by flames. In hellish torment, slowly he raises shotgun.
Oh, Reba, I can't wait to watch. I can't stand to watch you burn.
Close on Reba's face as she extends her hands pleadingly. Both barrels of the shotgun explode at once. Blood splatters her face. She staggers back stunned, then hears the heavy thump of a body hitting the floor. She turns to run, but stumbles, choking into the couch, smoke everywhere. She claws her hands through it, gasping, backs away from the couch, turning helplessly. Which way out? Which way? She takes a few tentative steps, arms extended, then stumbles over something and falls to her hands and knees. Her fingers trail across the floor until they encounter a dead hand, gripping the shotgun. Then they travel up the arm, the shoulder, finally sinking into the horrible mush of the face, pulp, bone splinters, and a loose eye. Gagging, choking, she falls backwards, then scrambled up again. Flames rise behind her, crackling, shooting up the drape, and licking across the ceiling. Flames and smoke everywhere. She turns desperately. Which way? Then a new sound, the bong of the tall case clock. Bong, bong. Her head turns. Bong, bong. Where is it? There? That way? Bong, bong. Crouching low under the smoke, she feels her way across the ballroom, bumping into cots, righting herself, moving toward the archway, toward the sound. Bong, bong. Under her breath, a desperate chant.
Left at the arch, 3 steps to the clock. Clock to the door, 9 more. Oh God. Oh God.
Interior lead car, police caravan, driving, night. Through the windshield, passing fields, patches of woods, then a red glow in the distance flickering against the low clouds. The deputy with the map points excitedly. That's it! That's where it is! The driver stomps his accelerator. The car roars forward. The other deputy hits the siren. Crawford grabs her microphone from the center console.
All units, that's his house. Burning, watch it now. He may be coming out. Sheriff, we need a roadblock here.
Graham leans forward between the two deputies, staring as the glow brightens and swells, coming closer. Exterior gravel road, night. The lead car roars past the nursing home sign, sirens screaming, then up through the old orchard as the other cars and vans follow. The whole scene is eerily lit by their flashing Mars lights as well as the rising flames. Interior lead car, police caravan, driving, night. Suddenly, a woman looms out in front of them, bathed in their headlights, lurching blindly into the car's path. The driver, cursing, slams on his brake as exterior gravel road, night. The car skids to a stop, fishtailing, slewing gravel, and just misses smashing into Reba. The following cars and vans veer quickly into the fields to avoid a huge pileup, bouncing and swaying over the rough ground. Then Graham and Crawford are out of their car, starting toward Reba. Then suddenly, the top of the house explodes, the garret and center roof disintegrating in a vast fireball as the ground shudders with the whoomp of the shockwaves that the police cars, and knocks down Graham, Crawford, and Reba. They scramble to their feet again, run to her, helping her up. Sparks rain down around them. Graham holds her arms, his face close to hers, red in the firelight.
Frances Dolarhyde.
She's bloody, sooty, half defeated. Her mouth is working, but nothing will come out. She shakes her head gently.
Frances Dolarhyde, where is he?
He's in there. He's dead in there.
Deputies in SWAT cups are racing by them with drawn weapons. Graham and Crawford look at the burning house, then back at Reba, at her sightless eyes.
You know that?
I was with him.
Tell us, please.
He shot himself in the face. I put my hand in it. He set the fire to the house. He shot himself. I put my hand in it. He was on the floor. I put my hand in it. Can I sit down, please?
Yes.
He sits her onto the bumper of a police car, sits beside her with his arms around her, while she sobs into his neck. As he soothes her, he glances up at the rocking chairs on the porch, moving eerily as the flames take them. One last ride for the ghosts. Dolarhyde's van is ablaze. Now its windows shatter as the gas tank explodes. Trees burn, shrubs. The entire hilltop is raging inferno. Graham stands in the road, watching the house burn. Stands there for a long time, expressionless, before the reddish glow on his face starts to change, becoming fade to. Exterior beach, day, a week later. A dazzling golden sunlit on ocean waves. Graham and Molly stand together on the beach, just below the house, below the boatyard, watching Josh casting into the surf. They're in shorts, barefoot.
How's she doing, that young woman?
Healing. She's a pretty amazing person. I think the worst of it is she feels like she should have known.
What did you tell her?
That whatever was still human in him was only kept alive because of her. That she probably saved lives, and that I've been there myself.
She looks at him a moment tenderly, then kisses him.
How about I get some sandwiches? Grouper salad?
You're on.
Interior Crawford's office, FBI building, day. Crawford, in his reading glasses, is taking down his task force maps and photos, putting them away in archival cartons. His phone rings, and he picks it up.
Crawford.
Interior Latent Fingerprints Lab, day. Jimmy Price, looking upset, clutches a receiver. Behind him on a steel table, some charred bone fragments.
Jack, these remains you found in the rubble, they're not Dolarhyde.
Intercutting. As Crawford, startled, looks down at his desk, resting there are grandmother Dolarhyde's shattered, blackened dentures.
What are you talking about? His goddamn dentures were there.
His teeth, not his bones. Wrong DNA.
Then whose bones are they?
Price grabs for a fax, scans it.
St. Louis PD is looking for a Chroma-Lux employee named Ralph Mendy. He was supposed to be on vacation, so nobody missed him for several days. And Jack, his motorcycle is missing too.
Crawford turns, staring into the distance out his window.
Jesus.
Interior Graham house, bedroom, day. On the Graham's bedside table, their phone rings. Through the window, we see Graham in the distance separating from Molly and Josh as he starts up into the dunes, coming this way. The phone rings again and again, with desperate, hopeless urgency. Exterior dunes, then beach, day. Graham reaches the opening of the narrow path through the scrub cedar where he pauses to look down at Molly and Josh, hardly able to believe his good fortune. When he turns back, Dolarhyde is blocking his path. The crazed yellow eyes stare into his. Dolarhyde smiles. His Glock is rising, but Graham kicks it, strikes the muzzle as the flash explodes. The pistol flies into the dense brush. Blood streaks Graham's t-shirt. The bullet has creased his chest. He staggers, falls, sliding headfirst on his back down the dunes to the beach. Molly and Josh turn at the shot and are stunned to see Dolarhyde leaping high into the air, trying to land with the boots on Graham's stomach, but Graham rolls aside, making him miss, then starts to rise. Dolarhyde kicks him in the ribs. Graham cries out, tumbling into his back again. Dolarhyde pins him with his knees, then whips out on his buck knife, ignoring Molly's screams. He raises the knife high, grunting as he slams him down. Graham whips his head to one side as the point misses his eye but slices open his cheek, crunching deep into the sand. Dolarhyde rocks forward, pulling the handle with both hands to free the blade. He's leering down at Graham with a shrill whir sounds, and Josh's treble-hooked surf lure bites solidly into Dolarhyde's face, piercing his cheek deeply. Blood spurts out. Dolarhyde roars with pain and rage, turning toward Josh, 40 feet away, pale with fear, straining at the other end of the line. Molly leaps up to his aid, and together they give the rod a huge yank, bending almost double. As Dolarhyde howls again, brutally tugged, he rises from Graham's body, stumbling towards Molly and Josh, trying to ease the pressure. He grabs at his face, trying to pull off the lure, but the third hook snags in his hand as well. With one hand gripping the knife, one hand hooked to his face, he starts after them, lurching over the sand. Graham rolls over to get to his knees, then his feet, and his lower face a mask of blood, sees Molly and Josh backing away from Dolarhyde, still trying to keep pressure on the line.
Run!
They hear him drop the rod, then turn, run down the beach, their bare feet kicking up sand. Dolarhyde hesitates, half blinded by blood, maddened by pain, uncertain which target to pick. He rips his hand free from the lure, screaming with rage. It still dangles from his face when he turns back, looking for Graham. Graham is already scrambling up the dunes onto the path. Dolarhyde sets off after him, dragging the rod. After a few yards, the reel buries itself in the sand, bringing him to a howling stop again before he thinks to slash the line. Then he takes off, looping hard after Graham. As Graham runs, panting up the path, he can hear the crashing of the brush. Close behind him, he's got perhaps 40 yards on Dolarhyde, then 35, 30. Exterior Graham house and boatyard, day. Graham bursts out of the path at the edge of the boatyard, hesitates for an instant, gasping for breath. Too far from the house, he'll never make it. Spotting a work ladder propped up against the hole of the Morgan slope, he runs to this, scrambles up to the deck. He turns, starts to yank the ladder up after him, but Dolarhyde dives across the sand, seizes the dangling end. An unequal tug-of-war develops, but Dolarhyde is appallingly strong and gradually is winning the ladder. Graham's eyes dart across the foredeck, desperately searching for some weapon. Bow pulpit, windlass, plow anchor, viciously pointed, but too heavy to lift. Molly and Josh, gasping, run into the yard from another direction close to the home, see the struggle at the boat.
Get inside, lock the door. Don't open it for anyone. Mom, lock the door. Call 911.
Josh, with tears in his eyes, runs for the house. Molly turns back to the sloop in agony of helplessness. Graham spots a brush, then an open can of spar varnish. He abruptly releases the grip on the ladder. Dolarhyde, not expecting this, is momentarily thrown off balance, but he now controls the ladder. Graham snatches up the can, hurls the varnish into Dolarhyde's face, shoulders, upper chest. Dolarhyde coughs, swiping at the thick, choking liquid. Molly has seen this. Her mind is racing. Graham throws the can as well, but misses Dolarhyde's head, bouncing off his massive shoulder. With a roar of fury, he starts up the ladder. Graham scrambles up the boom, one hand on the mast, then starts to climb the mast, reaching for the cleats. Dolarhyde grabs the stanchion, throws his leg over the lifeline, gains the deck. Molly runs to a Zephyr inflatable on a flatbed trailer, leans over the gunwale, rips open the emergency stowage. Her fingers scramble desperately inside. Patch kit, first aid kit, spare lines. Then locate a bundle of flares. Graham gets his feet onto the spreader with one hand on the mast and one hand gripping a shroud. Looks up. He can't go any higher. He's trapped. Looks down. Dolarhyde is climbing hand over hand towards him, the knife gripped between his teeth, the lure still dangling grotesquely from his cheek, his eyes gleaming through a mask of blood and varnish, confident now, supreme, a relentless, hellish specter.
Will!
Graham looks down. Molly stands at the keel blocks below Dolarhyde with a double handful of flares. Bending her knees for more leverage, she dips, jumps, hurling them upwards with all her strength. In slow motion, the slim red tubes rise, twisting, turning end over end, a small, scattering, slowly cloud of them, passing Dolarhyde, some arching back down uselessly until Graham releases the shroud, straining out for a flare with his free hand swaying, nearly losing his grip on the mast, his fingertips reaching until he just manages to snag one, pulling it to his chest. In one motion, he twists and pulls the cap. As white-hot sparks spit from the tube, he looks down at Dolarhyde as, just for an instant, their eyes lock together, and Dolarhyde, too late, knows. Graham throws the burning flare into his face. Dolarhyde's head bursts into flames, his neck, shoulders, upper chest all blazing, his mouth a dark, amazed circle at the center of his corona. His knife tumbles away, then his hands lose their grip, and then he's falling backwards away from Graham, falling, and his arms windmilling as he might fly, as if he were truly a dragon at last, trailing smoke and fire all the way down to the deck, where he's impaled on the point of the plow anchor. Molly drops to her knees in the sand, sobbing in relief. Graham sags weakly, his bloody cheek hugging the mast, his eyes squeezing shut in pain.
My dear Will, are you very ugly now? I hope not.
Interior hospital day. Graham sits propped up against pillows, with an IV drip, his chest and cheek wounds heavily bandaged. He stares out his window, past the tops of palms, towards distant water.
What a collection of scars you have. Perhaps you should consider exhibiting yourself in the FBI museum.
Interior Lecter's cell day. Lecter sits at his desk, writing a letter. His cell has been restored to its former appearance. Books and drawings, bedding and toilet seat. No trace of his fine meal remains.
Never forget who gave you the best of them. And be grateful, Will. Our scars have the power to remind us that the past was real. In fact, it's not even really the past, is it?
Exterior sailboat day. Graham stands by the lifeline of a slope under the easy sail. He's bearded now, his hair longer. He looks older. He's reading Lecter's letter.
Even after all these years, I think of you often. And of course, dear Molly and Josh. Do tell them that one day I'm still planning to pay my respects in person. Until then, your old friend Hannibal Lecter.
Graham drops the letter overboard, watching for a few moments as it swirls away in the boat's wake. Then he turns, walking back along the deck to rejoin Molly and Josh at the wheel, as the slope sails gracefully away over perfect gin-clear waters.
Hannibal, there's someone here to see you.
Interior Lecter's cell, day. Lecter, still composing his letter, ignores Dr. Chilton, who hovers gloatingly out of the corridor.
Wants to ask you a few questions. I told her you'd probably refuse.
Lecter becomes very still. His back remains turned.
Yes, I thought that might get your attention. A young woman says she's from the FBI. Thought she's far too pretty, if you ask me. What fun it would have been to see you writhing while she was just out of reach. Still, we can't get everything we want. I'll tell her you said no.
He starts away. Lecter considers. Behind the strange, pale eyes, something moves, the first quickening of wondrous new possibilities.
What is her name?
The end.
Hello, Clarice.
Hi, thank you for joining us. Well, folks, we'll see y'all at the next one.